Good evening, I am Vijata Bhandari. Welcome to NTV World Primetime News. We're coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere it's 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in detail. Nepal government has recommended Home Minister Om Prakash Aryal for a vacant seat in the National Assembly. The decision was made during a cabinet meeting held at the Prime Minister's residence in Balwatar on Sunday. Aryal, who hails from Gulmi, has been recommended as an expert member of the upper house of the federal parliament. According to Nepal's constitution, the president can nominate 3 members to the 59-member National Assembly based on the recommendation of the Council of Ministers. Members of the National Assembly serve a 6-year term, while elections for 1/3 of the chamber were held on January 25. Political parties that crossed the 3% threshold in the March 5 House of Representatives elections are submitting the names of the proportional representation candidates to the Election Commission today. According to the Commission, parties must provide the list of elected candidates in designated clusters during office hours. Assistant spokesperson Kul Bahadur Chisi said 6 parties, Rashtriya Swatantra Party, Nepali Congress, CPN-UML, Nepali Communist Party, Shram Sanskriti Party and Rashtriya Prajatantra Party were required to submit the final list. The Commission said it will publish the final list of elected candidates today if the submissions match the required cluster representation. Otherwise, party will be given time for the corrections. A Central Secretariat meeting of the Rashtriya Swatantra Party has finalized the names of 57 lawmakers for the proportional representation to the House of Representatives. The meeting recommended the names of 17 lawmakers for the Khas Arya cluster, 16 lawmakers for the Indigenous Nationalities cluster, 3 lawmakers for the Muslim cluster, 8 lawmakers for the Dalit cluster and 4 lawmakers for the Tharu cluster, said party spokesperson Manish Jha. Meanwhile, Nepali Congress has finalized the names of candidates to be elected under the proportional representation system for the House of Representatives. The decision was made during a meeting of the party's Central Working Committee held on Sunday. According to party spokesperson Devraj Chalise, the list includes 20 candidates, among them 15 women. The party selected 6 candidates each from the indigenous communities and Khas Arya categories, while 1 candidate each was chosen from the Tharu, Dalit, Madhesi, Muslim and backward region clusters. The finalized names will be submitted to the Election Commission, and the party said changes could be made if the cluster requirements need correction. Shram Sanskriti Party has submitted the names of 4 candidates to the Election Commission under the proportional representation system. The party has secured 4 seats in the House of Representatives elections under the PR system by crossing the threshold of 3%. The party's vice chairman Loknath Chural said that Ruby Kumari Thakur was chosen from the Madhesi women's cluster, Radhika Ramtel under Dalit women, Ambika Devi Sangrola Kharka from Khas Arya women and Purna Prasad Limbu from Adivasi Janjati cluster. Meanwhile, Rashtriya Prajatantra Party has finalized the names of 4 members of parliament under the proportional representation system. The decision was made at a meeting of the RPP Central Executive Committee held today at the party office in Thumbarai, based on the 4 seats allocated to the party according to the votes it received. RPP Chairman Rajendra Ling then informed that the meeting decided to recommend the second name on the proportional representation list for appointment to the vacant Madhesh Provincial Assembly. The Non-Resident Nepalis Association, that was seen as a possible robust link between Nepali diaspora and the motherland, has seen slow but gradual disintegration under political guise. The ongoing 12th World Conference and International General Convention is electing a new leadership of the movement for a 2-year term. Two major issues have attracted the attention this time: the possibility of unanimous leadership election and low-profile organization of the event. Sabika Shrestha brings the details of the day.
As the Non-Resident Nepali Association NRNA holds its 12th World Conference and International General Convention in Kathmandu, attention has turned to how the new leadership can shy away from subtle politicization of the movement. The convention is set to elect a new leadership of the International Coordination Council (ICC) for the next 2-year term. The leadership race has drawn interest among non-resident Nepalis worldwide, with candidates including Robin Prasad Serchan and Dr. Hemraj Sharma competing for the presidency. Internal sources, however, have said that an agreement has been forged so as to elect new leadership unanimously.
About 80 lakhs Nepalese living abroad. We have only 1 lakh members, which is about 2% of the total population. That means vast majority of NRNs are not involved in this organization. I think we overpromised to the nation we can do better, and the government has high expectation. I think that has to be very clear for the moment. What we can do, we have so many people living around the world, to bring all people, so they can, even the small investment can bring large amount of money. I think we should bring that approach instead of finding rich people, to connect all of the people around the world, and the small investment make it a large amount of money. That's the approach.
Sharma emphasized that NRA should work to introduce second-generation Nepalis to their roots and culture while serving as a bridge between the diaspora and Nepal. The organization, since its inception in 2003, has served as a link between Nepal and millions of Nepalis living abroad. Stakeholders say the incoming leadership will play a crucial role in mobilizing diaspora resources, encouraging investment, and promoting knowledge transfer that can assist Nepal's economic and social development. NRNA activists, however, say that political groupism and differing mindsets sometimes affect the organization, but noted that politics can be practiced constructively if guided by the right intent.
Somehow, directly, indirectly, there are political influence and lots of pressure, as you can see, current situation as well. But what I would say is, I know we all have, as individuals, we all have our own let's say beliefs and our family background, or somehow we are directly, indirectly, we have that mindset of political parties. As a person, as an individual, I would say there's politics everywhere, at home, in the community, nation, even in NRNA. And it is needed, politics is needed as well, but in a right way, not bringing the political influence in the association.
NRN citizenship might have been a win for the movement after marathon engagement with multiple governments since the promulgation of the new constitution, but various issues including the 7-year criteria and procedural hurdles have made it difficult to obtain. One of the major agendas of voting rights for NRNs remain in very political parties' manifesto, but so far has been unmaterialized. Experts note that a strong and unified leadership could help channel the expertise and capital of non-resident Nepalis into sectors such as tourism, entrepreneurship, technology, and infrastructure, areas seen as vital for the country's growth. Unanimous election of new leadership shows prospect of making the politically disintegrated movement again unified, as other agendas remain overshadowed as long as the power groups within the movement act under political guise. Sabika Shrestha with camera person Rasila Shrestha reporting for NTV World.
Time for a short break now. We shall see you back with more updates.
Which previously was popular only among foreigners, is now drawing the local tourists as well. Trishuli and Votekosi rivers that are close to Kathmandu are two popular destinations for rafting in Bagmati province. Let us first explore Votekosi. Whitewater rafting at Votekosi river is included.
Welcome back. You're watching NTV World Primetime News. Now, following the House of Representatives elections held on March 5, 6 political parties have qualified as national parties in Nepal. The recognition of national party status has now become a major topic of discussion. Aprila Khesing Lama looks into what legal and practical differences it makes for a party to be recognized or not recognized as a national party in Nepal's political system.
Under Nepal's mixed electoral system, a political party is recognized as a national party only if it meets 2 conditions. It must win at least 1 seat in the direct first-past-the-post election and secure at least 3% of the total votes under the proportional representation system. This means a party can win several direct seats but still fail to gain national status if it does not cross the 3% proportional vote threshold. Likewise, a party that receives more than 3% of proportional votes but fails to win at least 1 direct seat cannot be recognized as a national party. In the 2022 general election, CPN Unified Socialist won 10 direct seats but failed to cross the 3% proportional threshold and therefore did not qualify as a national party. In contrast, in the latest election, the Rashtriya Prajatantra Party crossed the 3% proportional vote threshold despite winning only 1 direct seat, allowing it to obtain national party status. National party recognition does not affect the salaries or benefits of members of parliament. However, parliamentary rules require a party to have at least 10 lawmakers in the House of Representatives to appoint an official chief whip and whip. Although some parties may gain national recognition, those with fewer than 10 MPs cannot formally appoint these positions, and such appointments are not officially recognized by the Federal Parliament Secretariat. Representatives of nationally recognized parties are generally invited to key parliamentary consultations, including meetings of the Parliamentary Business Advisory Committee and most all party meetings called by the President or the Prime Minister. According to parliamentary rules, political parties with 2 or more elected MPs are eligible for a parliamentary party office. Parties with only 1 seat, as well as independent lawmakers, are not entitled to these facilities.
Nepal's pharmaceutical industry has been steadily expanding, now producing around half of the medicines used in the country. Yet despite this growth, Nepal still imports medicines worth billions of rupees every year, particularly for high-end treatments. Our colleague Diksha Awasthi brings more.
Nepal produces about 50% of the pharmaceutical products used domestically, yet a large share of healthcare spending still goes to imported drugs for serious illnesses. Local pharmaceutical companies say producing medicines for high-end treatment is costly, mainly because active pharmaceutical ingredients, that is APIs, are expensive and mostly imported. Data shows Nepal imports around 40 billion rupees worth of medicines every year, while domestic industries currently supply roughly half of the country's demand. Nepal manufactures a wide range of medicines, including generic drugs such as antibiotics, painkillers, vitamins, anti-allergy medicines, diabetes, blood pressure drugs, and for common infections. In recent years, domestic companies have also started producing medicines for complex conditions like cancer and chronic diseases. This is a major step toward Nepal's full self-reliance on drugs. The Nepal Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association say there are 84 active companies in Nepal with plans to raise domestic market share from 50% to 80% within 2 or 3 years. However, more complex or patented medicines, including specialized injectables, advanced biologics, and many high-end treatments, are still imported. Experts argue Nepal, as a least developed country, currently benefits from international intellectual property waivers under the World Trade Organization's TRIPS agreement, allowing easier production of certain generic medicines. Once these privileges end, Nepali companies may face stricter patent protections when manufacturing certain molecules.
Under LDC status, what we are being able to do is we have a waiver on patented manufacturing patented drugs. So all the innovative brands, those are like just come up in the global world. We are being able to manufacture here in Nepal. But once we graduate, postgraduate, we are going to definitely face critical moments. After that, we may have to face legal compliances in international IP laws.
Despite these challenges, stakeholders believe Nepal's pharmaceutical sector still holds significant potential if supported by stronger policy frameworks, investment in advanced research technology. These issues were also highlighted during the 10th Nepal Pharma Expo, which concluded on Saturday in Kathmandu under the theme Innovation in Pharma, Health for Tomorrow.
We just want to show them we are also using the latest technology to manufacturing the medicines. What the new things are invented, Nepal also accept that and use that for the manufacturing for the pharmaceuticals products.
The three-day event featured 205 stalls from national and international companies, including around 35 Nepali pharmaceutical manufacturers, providing a platform to showcase technology, promote collaboration, and discuss the future of Nepal's pharmaceutical industry. Diksha Awasthi with camera person Kumar Sharma reporting for NTV World.
Nepal's House of Representatives elections held on March 5 were conducted peacefully with around 340,000 temporary security personnel deployed nationwide. After completing 40 days of service, the personnel were formally bid farewell. However, in Thankuta in eastern Nepal, authorities are planning long-term support for these election police personnel. Rojina Rai reports with local correspondent Ishwar Thapa from Thankuta.
Temporary security personnel hired for the House of Representatives elections on March 5th have completed their 40-day service. They were formally bid farewell through various functions across the country. However, in eastern Nepal's Thankuta, a different scene unfolded as the local government prepared to provide specialized training in various categories to link them to employment and entrepreneurial opportunities. Skill-based training programs tailored to participants' interest and conducted in collaboration with different agencies have been initiated. The training aims to guide former election security personnel toward self-employment and income-generating opportunities. Out of 149,090 security personnel deployed nationwide, 1,085 served in Thankuta. Many were uncertain about their next steps after completing the 40-day assignment and feared returning to unemployment and daily livelihood struggles. The orientation programs held during the farewell, however, have given them hope and confidence, showing that they can pursue opportunities by enrolling in these specialized trainings under local government. Experts and officials from several institutions under provincial and local government, including the CTVT Agriculture Knowledge Center, National Commercial Agriculture Research Center, Division Forest Office, and the Cottage and Small Industries Office, shared information about opportunities in their respective sectors. Chief District Officer of Thankuta, Binod Kumar Khatka, stated that the program was organized with the objective of supporting better future for those who contributed to the election process. In coordination with banks and financial institutions, participants were also informed about the concessional loans for their startups. The program is expected to encourage them to engage in agriculture, livestock farming, forest-based production, and small industries. While election security personnel in many areas simply return home after the election period ends, Thankuta has provided them the opportunity to receive training and develop skills. This initiative aims to transform short-term employment into long-term entrepreneurship and sustainable livelihoods. Rosina Rai with local correspondent Ishwar Thapa from Thankuta, reporting for NTV World.
The Bishwakarma community in Rajpal village in Syangja is reviving the traditional blacksmith profession, earning an average annual income of more than 300,000 rupees. Instead of switching to modern machine-made tools, the community has chosen to promote handmade products created through age-old forging methods. Around 35 blacksmith households in the village are now part of a campaign called One House, One Furnace. From their traditional forges, local craftsmen produce essential agricultural and household tools such as sickles, hoes, spades and axes. These tools are not only sustaining livelihoods in the village, but are also gaining popularity in nearby districts, including Parbat, Kaski and Palpa. Because of this growing demand, Rajpal village is gradually emerging as a model for blacksmith businesses in Nepal. Locals believe that with dedication and hard work, people can earn a decent living without having to go abroad for employment. With proper support from local governments and relevant authorities, traditional skills and cottage industries like these could continue creating jobs and driving sustainable growth in rural communities. Time for a short breather here. We shall be back with international updates on the other side. Israel has launched wide-scale strikes on targets in western Iran, the Israeli military said, as Iran responded with a new wave of missile attacks amid escalating regional tensions. The Israeli military said its forces targeted Iranian military infrastructure and strategic sites in western parts of the country during the latest round of operations. The latest escalation comes weeks after large-scale U.S.-Israeli military operations targeting Iranian facilities, which triggered retaliatory missile and drone attacks by Tehran and heightened fears of a broader regional conflict. Iranian forces fired additional missiles following the strikes, according to regional reports, as the confrontation widened across the Middle East. Air defense systems were activated in several areas while authorities assessed the impact of the attacks. Officials in both countries have signaled continued military action, raising concerns among international leaders about the risk of a prolonged war in the Middle East. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened further strikes on Iran's Kurg Island oil export hub and urged allies to send warships to secure the Strait of Hormuz, an artery for global energy supplies, as Tehran vowed to intensify its response. With the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran in its third week, Trump said U.S. strikes had totally demolished much of the island and warned of more attacks. The remarks marked a sharp escalation from Trump, who had previously said the U.S. was targeting only military sites on Kurg and dealt a blow to diplomatic efforts. Trump also has said Tehran appeared ready to make a deal to end the conflict, but that the terms aren't good enough yet. Tehran's capacity to choke off traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, the gateway for the fifth of the world's oil, has vaulted from a long-standing danger to an urgent flashpoint, confronting the U.S. and its allies with a crisis that could upend the global economy. Sri Lanka has reintroduced the National Fuel Pass, making QR codes mandatory for all fuel purchases as the government moves to manage limited reserves, deter hoarding, and maintain uninterrupted supply for everyday needs and economic activity. Officials said the decision follows disruptions to global petroleum supply chains linked to the ongoing military situation in the Middle East and an abnormal spike in domestic demand, which together have accelerated the depletion of available stocks. Authorities also flagged illegal bulk buying and black market rackets as aggravating factors. The government urged motorists to comply with the new requirements, stressing that the fuel pass is critical to shortening queues, preventing misuse, and ensuring uninterrupted fuel access for the general public as long as supply pressures persist. Pakistani warplanes struck several locations across Afghanistan on Thursday night and Friday, killing at least 6 people, including a woman and a child, and wounding more than a dozen others, local officials said. The strikes hit a fuel depot near the country's Kandahar airport, areas in the capital Kabul, and the eastern Nangarhar province. A Pakistani security source said the strikes targeted hideouts belonging to the Pakistani Taliban, also known as Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. In the past weeks, scores of people from both sides have been killed or injured in the conflict between Afghanistan and neighboring Pakistan, according to officials from the two countries. The United Nations mission in Afghanistan has called for an immediate halt to cross-border clashes, warning that the escalating violence is driving a surge in civilian casualties and deepening a humanitarian crisis. Time for another short breather. We shall be back with more international updates. Heavy snowfall has blanketed parts of Iran and other mountainous areas of Atlas Mountains, creating hazardous road conditions and disrupting daily life across the region. Authorities in Morocco have issued warnings urging drivers to exercise caution and use winter tires and chains where necessary, as snow continues to accumulate on key mountain routes. Emergency and road maintenance teams have been deployed to clear major roads and assist stranded motorists. The snowfall is linked to a cold front moving across the Atlas Mountains, bringing a sharp drop in temperatures that forecasters say could intensify over the weekend. Local authorities confirmed that several schools and public offices in affected mountainous districts have temporarily closed as a precaution, while municipal services continue efforts to keep primary roads open and maintain access to remote communities. Now to latest from sports. Daniil Medvedev brought an end to world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz's perfect start to 2026 to reach the final at Indian Wells. Alcaraz began the year by winning the Australian Open and was on a 16-match winning streak until running into Medvedev. The Russian made a quick start, taking the opening set in 35 minutes en route to a 6-3, 7-6 victory in California. The 30-year-old, who has finished runner-up at the California event on 2 occasions, will face Yannick Sinner after the world number 2 caught the eye with a 6-2, 6-4 win over Alexander Zverev earlier in the day. Teenager Kimi Antonelli took his first Formula One victory as he led teammate George Russell home in a Mercedes 1-2 at the Chinese Grand Prix. The 19-year-old Italian became the second youngest Grand Prix winner in history, a day after becoming the youngest pole sitter, with a controlled drive after briefly losing the lead at the start to Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. Only Max Verstappen, who won for the first time aged 18 at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix, has taken the checkered flag in F1 at a younger age than Antonelli. Antonelli fought back tears and struggled for words during his post-race interview as the enormity of the moment sunk in. Russell's second place ensures he keeps the championship lead by 4 points from Antonelli after a race compromised by losing positions following an early safety car. Behind them, Hamilton and Ferrari teammate Charles Leclerc staged a gripping duel for the first two-thirds of the race. This brings us to the end of this news bulletin, but before we say goodbye, let's have a look at our headlines. Nepal government recommends Home Minister Aryal for National Assembly seat. PR deadline. PR deadline hits today. Party summit lawmakers names to Election Commission. Non-resident Nepali Association seeks unanimous leadership while political divisions and low-profile events raise questions. Israel launches wide-scale strikes on western Iran as Tehran responds with retaliatory missile attacks. Pakistani airstrikes across Afghanistan kill 6, target Taliban hideouts. And Daniil Medvedev ends Carlos Alcaraz's 16-match winning streak to reach Indian Wells final. That's it for this edition of NTV World Primetime News. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website at nepaltelevision.com. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Inside the quiet courtyard of Baber Mahal, colors seem to breathe on their own. This is Siddharth Art Gallery, home to some of Nepal's most defining contemporary art movements. Today, the gallery opens its doors to Mithila Cosmos, a universe imagined through the brush of artist S.C. Suman, a name inseparable from the evolution of gallery space.
म आफ्नो बच्चैदेखि हजुरआमालाई हेर्दै थिएँ यो भित्तामा उहाँ कोर्नुहुन्थ्यो अब भित्तामा कोर्दै जाँदाखेरि उहाँलाई हेर्दै आएर त्यसपछि म बच्चै बालकालदेखि नै स्कुल जाँदा अनि फुलहरू हेर्दा मलाई हजुरआमाले पेन्टिङ गर्नुहुन्छ, त्यसमा रङ बनाउनुहुन्छ भनेर म उहाँको लागि बाटोमा खसेका फुलहरू ल्याएर उहाँलाई दिन्थेँ र उहाँलाई भन्थेँ कि ल यसबाट पनि रङ बनाउनुहोस्, यसबाट पनि पेन्टिङ गर्नुहोस्। अनि यो कुरा मलाई एकदम सहजै प्र्याक्टिसमा आएको जस्तो लाग्यो र उहाँको पछि उहाँ भित्ताहरू रङाउँदाखेरि पेन्टिङहरू गर्दाखेरि म उहाँलाई छोडेर कतै जाँदैनथेँ र मलाई पनि काम गर्न दिनुहोस् भनेर उहाँ कहिले काहीँ दिक पनि मान्नुहुन्थ्यो। कति मलाई माने यो डिस्टर्ब गरेको, तिमी जाऊ खेल भनेर, त्यही पनि म उहाँसँग बस्थेँ। अब उहाँले त्यही पनि उहाँको म बसिरहन्थेँ, उहाँले चाहिँ साइडमा कुनै कुनामा एउटा सानो चित्र बनाइदिनुहुन्थ्यो र यसमा तिमी रङ भर भन्नुहुन्थ्यो। अनि म छिटो रङ भर्थेँ अनि उहाँले आश्चर्य भन्नुहुन्थ्यो, हेर कति मभन्दा पनि राम्रो रङ भर्दो रहेछ भनेर। अनि यसरी मलाई चाहिँ मिथिला पेन्टिङले नजिक ल्यायो र म त्यो फेरि त्यो गर्न थालेँ।
What we see today is not just an exhibition, it is a lived memory of culture, philosophy, and the changing world around us.
यसरी प्रत्येक घटनासँग जोडिँदै आएर एक्जिबिसन आएको हो र 2021 मा मिथिला कस्मस द साइकल अफ टाइम आयो। त्यसपछि त्यो 22 मा सक्यो, 22 को जनवरीमा सक्यो र त्यसपछि अहिले आएर यो 25 मा यो एक्जिबिसन आयो। त्यो बीचको जुन अब फेरि यसलाई कसरी जोड्ने त, अब जस्तो कि नेपाल एकाडेमी अफ फाइन आर्ट्समा म काउन्सिल मेम्बर हुँदाखेरि मैले आफ्नो देशको लोककलाहरूलाई हेर्न पाएँ। म लोककला विभाग प्रमुख थिएँ होइन। अनि त्यो हेर्दै जाँदाखेरि म पूर्वदेखि पश्चिमसम्म, उत्तरदेखि दक्षिणसम्मका त्यो जिल्लाहरू भ्रमण गरेँ। हाम्रा लोककलाहरूलाई हेरेँ। हाम्रो भनिन्छ हाम्रो देशमा 123 126 वटा भाषा बोलिन्छ, त्यसका आफ्ना संस्कृति छन्, आफ्ना चाहिँ रीतिथिति छन्, त्यसभित्रका कलाहरू मैले हेर्न पाएँ र त्यो सबैलाई जोड्दै जाँदाखेरि एउटा आर्टिस्टले कसरी त्यो प्रभावित पार्दो रहेछ र त्यो स्टुडियोमा काम गर्दाखेरि त्यो एलिमेन्टहरू हेर्नु र त्यो एलिमेन्टलाई आफ्नो पेन्टिङमा चाहिँ समावेश गर्नु, यो सहज रूपमा त्यो हुँदै जान्छ र यो सो ल्याउँदाखेरि चाहिँ तल्लामा हामी चाहिँ हेर्छौँ क्यानभास वर्कहरू छ, त्यसमा देवी कथा छन्, गीताका सार छन्, जीवनका त्यो कथाहरू छन् र त्यसमाथिमा आउँदाखेरि उपत्यकाका कथा छन्। त्यसपछि जनकपुरको रामायण र अयोध्याको कथाहरू छ, रामायणसँग जोडिएको कथा छ। त्यसपछि बौद्ध कथाहरू आएका छन्। त्यो सिरिजहरूलाई कसरी एक ठाउँमा हामी कसरी विभिन्न जाति समुदायहरू एउटा साझा फुलबाडी हो, त्यसभित्रका संस्कृतिका कुराहरू, त्यसभित्रका कुराहरू मैले ल्याउँदाखेरि मलाई त्यो आफैसँग आफूलाई परिचय गराउनु जस्तो र त्यो मैले कलाको माध्यमबाट बुझेर म यो कुरालाई म आफ्ना नयाँ पुस्ताहरूसम्म पनि यो चाहिँ यसरी हो हाम्रो देश, यो मिथिला पेन्टिङ भनेको एउटा समुदाय क्षेत्र समुदायको विशेषको पेन्टिङ होइन, यो नेपाली आर्ट हो। यदि मिथिला पेन्टिङको नेपाली कलाको कुरा गऱ्यो भने मिथिला पेन्टिङलाई छोडेर त्यो नेपाली आर्ट पुरा हुँदैन भनेर मेरो बुझाइमा मैले यसरी यो एक्जिबिसनले ल्याएको।
Mithila art carries centuries of tradition from Janakpur, from mythological narratives and wedding symbols to intricate floral motifs that speak of life, devotion, and identity. The power of Mithila painting lies in its detail. Every line, every border, every color has a purpose.
के हुन्छ कलाकारले जब घुम्छ ऊ चाहिँ ट्राभल गर्छ, चाहे त्यो देश विदेशको यात्रा होस्, चाहे आफ्नो विषयवस्तु खोजी हिँड्छ, उसले अनुकरण गर्ने क्षमता मलाई लाग्छ उसँग धेरै हुन्छ। उसको दिमागमा त्यो कुराहरू आइरहेको हुन्छ क्या, त्यो आइरहेको र त्यो कतै न कतै कुनामा बसिरहेको हुन्छ। अब जब स्टुडियोमा बिस्तारै काम गर्दै जाँदाखेरि एउटा आर्टवर्कसँग करिब एक सप्ताह उसले बिताउँछ, चाहे 15 दिनसम्म बिताउँछ त्यो विषयवस्तु र त्यसका त्यो फ्रेम अब्जेक्टहरूमा बिताउँछ र त्यसमा चाहिँ त्यसको दिमाग त खाली हुँदैन, ऊ सोचिरहन्छ र सोचेर त्यो बिताएका क्षणहरूमा उसले चाहिँ आफ्नो कलाहरूमा त्यसलाई चाहिँ प्रस्कृत गर्दै जान्छ र त्यो अनुभव बटुलेका चिजहरूलाई उसले चाहिँ त्यतिखेर सम्झँदै उसले चाहिँ केही सम्झना आउँछ र केही नयाँ चिज ल्याउँछ। पहिलो एक्जिबिसनहरू गर्दाखेरि त्यो छडिएको हुन्थ्यो, जस्तो विभिन्न पेन्टिङहरूलाई ल्याएर एकै ठाउँमा गएर त्यसमा एक्जिबिसन गरिएको जस्तो हुन्थ्यो। त्यसपछि के भयो भने मेरो पहिलो मिथिला सोलो एक्जिबिसनको टाइटल पनि म्याथली आर्ट थियो। त्यसपछि म्याथली आर्ट लिभिङ ट्रेडिसन भनेर आयो। त्यसरी जबसम्म त्यो म्याच्योर हुँदै जान्छ कलाकारले 1-2 स्टेपहरू हुन्छन् त्यो एक्जिबिसनहरूको त्यसले अनुभव पनि बटुल्छ र बटुल्दै जाँदा भ्युअर्सहरूसँग भेट्छ जर्नलिस्टहरू भेट्छ क्रिटिक्सहरूसँग भेट्दै जाँदाखेरि त्यसको निखार आउँदै जान्छ नि साधनाको निखार आउँदै जान्छ र त्यो चाहिँ विषयवस्तुसँग जोडिँदै जान्छ र आज आएर यो फ्रेममा चाहिँ हामी हेर्न पाउँछौँ.
Art becomes complete only when someone responds to it. In this gallery, every viewer sees something different. A memory, a symbol, a question, a reminder. What do the visitors find in this universe of Mithila?
Well, as an academician, I feel that Mithila painting is like a healing process to people. And this exhibition has expressed itself in a very beautiful way, expressing each and every motive which is present over here related to not only mythology, but also related to emotions of the people. And it is like a story work over here. The entire journey of Mithila has been depicted over here, which speaks volumes not only about the artist, but also about each and every object which has been portrayed over here.
Walking through these halls feels like traveling between timelines. The ancient and the modern coexist. Tradition is not frozen in the past. It evolves through those who carry it forward.
We feel like connected to Sumanji's works because he takes approach that's quite respectful, quite engaging and contemplative, and someone who speaks with contemplation, someone who prefers to remain in a discipline and work from the frame of that discipline. He had chosen the Mithila paintings framework, and he remains in that framework, and he stretches, expands the framework, and develops narrative power, descriptive power, that communicative power with that frame. And that's something amazing.
It may appear abstract at first glance, but spend a moment longer and stories begin to unfold of gods and goddesses, rituals and seasons, and the subtle emotions of everyday life. And within this rich visual grammar, Suman adds his own world, shaped by places he has lived, moments he has witnessed, and the history that surrounds him.
He was among the first generation artists of Mithila art. When he started his career from the kind of humble background he was in, with that financial background, very few people could actually make art and Mithila art in particular their primary career. So that is what separates him from other artists in that regard. However, I will also admit that a lot of other artists have also put in their contribution in the upliftment of Mithila art, and Mithila art has grown due to the collective effort of a lot of people.
From Vivaha Panchami in Janakpur to the lotus of Bodhanath, from the cosmic churn of Samudra Manthan to the silence of COVID lockdowns, Suman brings time onto canvas. His lines become memory, his colors become testimony.
Yeah, there are many favorites, you can see that. If you see that there are, each painting says some story. Like this is if you see this, here the wedding, Sita, Mata Sita wedding with the Ram. There is a procession going on, and every painting you will see that there are the nature. The S.C. Suman painting is the nature he captures very nicely. The color combination you will find very rare artists. That type of eye-catching is that one. Many things are within the one paintings.
Mithila Cosmos reminds us that art is not only what we see, it is what we feel, return to, and carry within ourselves.
I have grown in a Mithila household. I've been very closely connected to the Mithila culture. I have been seeing Mr. Suman's exhibitions since a long time, and this is one of the third or fourth exhibition of his that I've been attending. So So yeah, that I obviously know about what kind of paintings he does and what time does he conducts these exhibitions. So this is exactly how I found that he was going to do an exhibition this year as well.
Has a similar sort of providing blessing sort of artwork in the form of like a lakudwa, which like exists in a door frame. So what he's done in that specific piece is behind a lakudwa is a cobra painting, so like a wedding specific painting. So he's combined these two cultures as part of his, and it's part of his own narrative because he moved from Janakpur to Nepal, so that's what he was trying to convey, the mixing of these two cultures. So yeah, I think the mixing and, you know, like venturing out of your own home place, which is very common these days, and traveling and seeing the world, I think that's, I think the contemporary connection.
Behind every exhibition is a vision that guides how artworks converse with space and audience. Curator Sangeeta Thapa has been a key voice in shaping Nepal's modern and contemporary art landscape.
His first exhibition, Mithila Cosmos, began in 2007, and what we have been seeing is that he is really celebrating the art forms of the Mithila world, along with the myths and legends of the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and this is something that we see all throughout the different editions of the Mithila Cosmos journey that he has with the Siddharth Art Gallery. This is his 7th show, and we decided to call it Journey of a Pilgrim because the piety in the exhibition is very apparent, and his knowledge of the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, the myths and legends that we have grown up listening to and learning about, you know, become central to his work. But Sumanji is also talking not only about Mithila art, he's from the Tarai, so he brings in elements from Tharu, Dusad, Salish, different forms of art form from indigenous communities in the Tarai, and he amalgamates it and he really makes it his own. Perhaps the most significant work in this show is called Samudra Manthan, and if you know, this is a story which has been visually narrated by so many artists, from Raja Ravi Varma to early 19th century engravings, but he has, you know, even amalgamated a Hakusai wave into this art form. So that is a really famous painting, The Wave, and you can see that influence has permeated his wave, his painting. Sumanjiko themes are not only religious, so whether it is the eco-anxiety that we all feel at present, the destruction of Nisgar forest or the Chure hills, he amalgamates all of that. During COVID, he had a specific work which he, you know, asked the question, why were bats blamed for spreading COVID in the world? I mean, was the virus man-made? So his belief in nature, the natural cosmology of the world, is something that you will see over and over again in his paintings.
As visitors step out, the colors remain. In imagination, in reflection, and perhaps in rediscovering where heritage meets the present.
During Lichevi period, Chango Narayan was also known as Dola Shikhar, which refers to a mount or hill in the shape of Doli. Gopal Raj Vansavali and the Chango inscription also mention it as Changu, a Newari word that refers to swing like hill. But the evidences show that this particular place was popular as Chango Narayan from the earliest time, and the same name exists in the society till present. This too.
A very good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to Nepal Elections Special Dialogue on NTV World. I'm Shivani Thapa Bosniath with you. As election results continue to come in from across Nepal, the early trends are already suggesting a political moment that could reshape the country's parliamentary landscape. A relatively new political force appears to be performing very strongly, in fact, more than expected, in many of the directly elected constituencies of the House of Representatives. But while election day or the immediate election aftermath often focuses on numbers and victories, the deeper questions begin only after the votes are counted. How does a constitutional system absorb a sudden political shift like this? Was a scenario or such a scenario anticipated by the architects of Nepal's constitutional framework? And perhaps most importantly, what happens next? Nepal's lower house has 275 seats in total, with 165 elected directly and 110 through the proportional representation. So even as trends emerge, the final parliamentary balance and therefore the shape of the next government remains uncertain. But beyond the arithmetic lies a broader institutional question. How will Nepal's political system adapt to this changing shift in the central role in governance? And to explore that, I'm joined in by constitutional scholar Dr. Bipin Adhikari, who was closely involved in Nepal's constitution writing process. Dr. Adhikari, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Namaste.
It's a pleasure to have you here in our studios in this very, very crucial moments.
Thanks.
So let us begin at the core area of your expertise, Dr. Adhikari. Was the scenario of what we are witnessing at this moment so dramatic as many are perceiving, right? Was this scenario even anticipated or expected by our constitution?
I think it's very much normal in politics. Once you have elections, most of the time you are very clear which one is going to be the first party or second party. But then in the present case, it was somewhat a little surprise also. But then everybody expected RSP to perform better than what they did last time. Beyond that, this time, they have done very well. I mean, they are not simply going to be a largest party, but hopefully a majority party also with a very strong presence in the House of Representatives. So this will be the first time after the promulgation of the new constitution of Nepal in 10 years. Let's say we will have the first majority-led government, and that's something very good for the country. But again, the scenario will be clear only after all the results are declared. So the counting is going on, and it is very clear that RSP is leading, and then the competing parties who are on the pipeline, they are not doing better. And the gap between them is so vast. So that means that the new party will, form a government which is very confident, which has very strong presence in the parliament, and also which can make a lot of changes they have been talking about.
That's something the Nepali people have been looking forward to for a long time now. But still, given the electoral system that Nepal exercises, it's too early for us to make any sort of predictions, but then assumptions that we cannot stop, right? And again, there's been so much drama in the numbers that are surfacing. But still, let me get back to the same question again. When Nepal's current constitutional framework was designed, Dr. Adhikari, under the Constitution of Nepal 2015, and which, one of the architects, you were in the team.
I don't say I'm an architect, but then I was, one of the experts providing external support to the constitution building process.
Right. So as one of the experts, what's the possibility of a completely new political party or political force emerging so quickly in Parliament, something that the Constitution anticipated?
That's now the, fait accompli. I don't say that gives a negative connotation. That's not my intention. The RSP is on board, obviously, as a leading party. And the way they have been performing, it shows that they will lead the future, and with a very strong presence in the House, as I said already. So this time the difference is the opposition parties will be meager. There will be very limited number of parties in the parliament, and most of the parties are, at present, they are fighting their existence in the polling center. You can see that there are more than 65 parties contesting elections, and they have not been able to show up the, with the ballot papers, so far. And only a couple of parties are there. And even the the dominant parties in the country so far, like Nepali Congress, UML, and the other parties who started as regional parties are also facing the existential crisis, because getting down to you can see that Nepali Congress will now its strength in the house that was dissolved was almost 88 or 89 out of 275. Now it's not going to be the same. They will decline further, and it's possible that they will end up with, let's say, almost 24, 25 seats. And it's said to be declared, but then they are not performing. So the opposition will be a weak opposition with a very strong, heavyweight, ruling party, and that means the parliamentary system, especially its internal, check and balance, will suffer with that, changed context. And that's very much going to happen very soon.
And it's just 10 years or a little more that the Constitution was promulgated, right? So,
yes.
I mean, was this anticipated, or did the Constitution anticipated a little gradual change in these sort of equations?
I think the formation of government, as far as the Constitution is concerned, it only has the provisions for how, in a given scenario, the government will be formed. And this type of eventuality is always there in the Constitution, so it's not unpredictable. So what is now the change in the scenario is that a single party is coming up as a dominant party in the parliament. And many of us here, they used to, remark that it's not possible to form a majority government in Nepal anymore because of the proportional electoral system. And now it has proved wrong, that even within the proportional system, a strong, majority party could lead the government. So if there are alternatives, people are ready to vote for. So the constitutional provisions are there. I don't think there is any stress on these provisions.
Nepal's parliamentary system combines both the direct elections and the PR representation as well. So we still have to wait a little more to see a clear picture of how the equations emerge, right? From a constitutional design perspective, Dr. Adhikari, what role does this proportional representation meant to play in moments like this? Like, is the system designed to moderate sudden electoral swings like the ones that we're experiencing?
I think it was like, it was not a swing. In fact, the dominant political forces in the country had a problem to read, what is written on the wall. They have been failing because there was, a strong hue and cry that the government has not been able to ensure good governance. The rising corruption had been an issue always, and the selective enforcement of rule of law had been clearly an issue for many years. So that was something that everybody talked about, but then none of the political parties in the country were able to pick up these little threads in the electoral process. This time RSP did it, and so RSP came forward as an alternative, and obviously it is being trusted by the people. The proportional representation, in fact, this has been introduced into the constitutional system of Nepal to make sure that there is a proper level of inclusion in the political process, and also that the regions as well as the ethnic groups in the country are properly represented. So that came in addition to first past the post system, which is ideology based, and many people thought that the political parties in Nepal, they will be able to keep up with the ideological thread along with representation ensured through proportional system, and in fact they have been able to do it. It's only that this time the change is, it has reached through a crisis level, Now that people voted without trusting anybody. And you can see that, as I said, the competitors are not performing very well. If you see how the RSP is leading in almost all constituencies, except there are rare exceptions. Otherwise, it's very something that we didn't see before, that even now votes are being counted in more than 120 constituencies. The 120 constituencies, and in all of these constituencies RSP is leading, and except for the gaps between the winner and those following up is very big. And it's because even the voters of the first the post system, they have been very, very objective this time. They didn't trust their the old allies anymore.
So you would rather dub it as an issue of delivery,
yes,
rather than a failure of a system?
No, the system has not failed. I think the system is intact, and nobody has really complained about the system. There are some marginal voices about how to make it more representative, and obviously that could always be done if there is a national consensus. But then the political parties, they had a problem. So despite the clear constitutional position about inclusion, proportional inclusion, and many voices of change, the provisions of change, these were not implemented so well. And the problem started with the political parties as public institutions, and now there is a change. So the driver will be replaced this time.
Right. So if the current trend holds, just let's shift our focus to the emerging figures from the Election Commission at the moment. If the current trend holds, Dr. Adhikari, Nepal could see a parliament where traditional parties are significantly weakened, right? And as you said, certainly we are looking, like the figures show a pretty much weakened opposition, right? So a parliamentary democracy largely relies not only on a government but also on a very, very credible opposition. So in an assumption, should the traditional forces collapse in this election, who provides the opposition?
The opposition will still be there. It's only that it will not be as strong as before. In fact, during the last two general elections, we had very clear opposition parties within the parliament, but then they were very ambitious. In fact, the coalitions that were manufactured during the last 20 years, I think they were not strictly on the basis of democratic principles. So despite the fact that some political parties clearly had the popular mandate in their favor, some weaker parties, the opposition groups who should have been in the opposition, they were leading the government because they tried to, some way manage the mathematics in the and some way come out with the majority, but leaving the fact that elections are held in order to see who has popular mandate, and forces with popular mandate were forced to be in the opposition. For example, you see Nepali Congress was the largest party in the bygone parliament, but then it was not leading the show simply because of certain political interest, and it was like in the coalition it was a marginal partner, and the government was led by UML, and that happened because the principle of democracy were not very much into play in this dynamics of relationship. Now that there will be a change, there will still be certain political parties, for example, and there is a possibility that they will merge with each other, many of them, in order to ensure their visibility as an opposition group, or even they will have some working coalition between themselves. So that way also they can ensure that they are able to serve as opposition, a loyal opposition to the system.
Would that pave way to a danger that too weak in opposition could weaken democratic accountability?
I think opposition is very much needed, and it has to be a strong opposition. But in modern world, it's not the opposition in parliament which matters. We have the free and independent media, which I think, if you compare with the rest of the South Asian countries, I think we are still very much independent, and that serves to the advantage of our democracy. And apart from that, the civil society of Nepal is also very much, I think it is very strong, and so it is also there. And even RSP, it is going to have the necessary numbers to make it stronger, but it cannot be very strong because it is yet to develop as a political party, because it lacks institutions throughout the country. I mean, the first thing. Secondly, it has to develop internal disciplines. I mean, this is the code of conduct and the certain, standard norms and values that will be used to discipline the cadres as well as the leaders. And they project the party as a single unified voice, and that takes a lot of time. After the government is formed, it will have to be pursued very carefully and for a long time. Similarly, we can see that because the party is very new, the candidates, they come from different background. Most of the candidates of RSP, they are not from social background. They have not been very much in the political, let's say at the grassroots level. They have very meager, existence. So whatever, even though they are in the parliament, I mean, their relationship with the people who voted for them is still weak. They have to build on that. And these, I said, social, groups, professional groups, civil society, universities, and Nepal is very much political. Violation of criminal law, violence, all the things there. Now they are committed to it. There is a social contract. Similarly, they have been saying that they will be, if they are elected, they will be opening up all corruption files, since 1990. So that's a very, very loud claim. You have to see whether legally it is possible, because criminal laws have the concept of limitations, and the institution of any case has to go through certain procedural requirements. So these are challenges that they have to manage in due course.
Exactly, Dr. Adhikari, because what the Nepali people are sending into the parliament is a lot of hope, dreams, promises, frustration, and aspirations. Yes. But the real test begins after the euphoria settles down, right? So after all the arithmetic settles down. So you lead me to the challenge part. So let us now walk through a few of the major challenges that we foresee in the very, very immediate future. Now, as young as the new political force is apparently, even Nepal's constitution is equally, young to Nepal, right?
A new document.
Nepal's constitutional system, again, is federal in nature now, a very new federal democratic with significant powers distributed to the provinces as well. So even if the federal parliament changes dramatically with the new forces ushering in, provincial governments may remain dominated or will remain dominated by the established parties. How much of a friction do you foresee in the very immediate future?
I think there are many such issues, and the first thing is to, the new government will have to make sure that it knows what it is going to do in the next 5 years, make the detailed plan, and start with the first stage, demonstrate it to the people, even to the people who disagree with you, and that's also there. So it has to be done, step by step, and without losing the current, and that's always a challenge.
Mm-hmm. We've been discussing the constitutional and institutional implications of these election trends. But of course, there are Nepalis who are watching us live at the moment, Dr. Adhikari, and who are also watching these developments very, very closely. And many are asking some practical questions about what happens next. So let's bring in a few questions that our viewers have sent in on our live streamings and our broadcast. I would want to pick a question first from Manuja Upriti, and she asks, do you think the new party that is likely to form the upcoming government will be able to address the demands of the Gen Z?
Yeah, of course, it is in a position to fulfill the demands of the youths of the country. So, and in fact, RSP has come forward because of the strong support of youths, and so they have required majority, and the constitution does not prohibit for any changes. They can go for any changes, and the challenge is to sit with the youths and find out what exactly they want and how to pursue it, because there is no quick fix to their problems. Youths are related with different problems in our society, and it's a matter of prioritization and also developing strategies, and then pulling on resources. And this is possible, especially for the people who are educated, who have very good background, who are committed to this country. The government should be able to offer what it can do to them, to the entrepreneurs, to the fresh graduates, to those who want to stay in the country and contribute to its development as well as build their career. So this is possible, and now that they can start with the ministry with a clear terms of reference for the youths, and we don't have separate committed ministerial portfolio for the youths and their issues.
Mm-hmm. The next question I get to pick is from Haris Suwal, and Haris Suwal chose to send us a question which reads, is it just a political wave for change or real awakening of the voters?
I think it's a very calculated question, I can see. I would say this is a mix of both these situations, expectations. And obviously people who voted, they voted for good. And then there was a big wave. You see, the parties, the political parties who ruled the country so far, let's say for the last 35 years or so, they were very strong parties. Now at once, they all are, on the margins. And that means that there was something seriously wrong on their part. Now those who are saying that they have the solution to the problems of this society, they should be able to deliver, and nothing will help if the delivery, that means good governance aspect of the new government is weak. So I would say that we have to offer solutions on both these parts.
Mm-hmm. Some really interesting questions coming in, Dr. Adhikari. We have one from Janardhan Baral, who asks, The voters' turnout suggested otherwise of the general excitement. How do you see the significant drop in the voters' turnout at polling stations?
I think there are, I think in Nepal, this was not a right timing for the general elections. We need to understand, but it was a constitutional compulsion. We cannot, hold up election for an indefinite period. Once the House is dissolved, within 6 months, the replacement must be there. So, not a good season for the election. And in the Himalayan region, obviously, even now there is a snowfall. So people who had to travel to the polling stations, they had to suffer. That must have, impacted. And also there are, it's true that many new faces turned up this time, but many old faces, they declined. They thought that what's the use of voting again and again? It does not, bring any change to our situation. So that mentality must also have some way affected the decision making. And also that 60% is not bad. If we go by international average, that's still very important, I think. We talk about legitimacy of the election only when the system has not offered opportunities to the people to go to the polling stations. There are structural disadvantages created, but we don't have that scenario anymore. So the 60% turnout is not bad. I would say if we are able to maintain it, I think we still can have a legitimate government politically. Constitutionally, it is already legitimate.
There's one more question coming in. I'm not sure if this is quite relevant to the context or the topic that we are discussing, but still I would want to take this question. There's no name, it's an anonymous question. It says, why cannot we implement out-of-constituency voting and abroad voting? I'm sure there were so many people who wanted to vote but were refrained from their voting rights owing to all these infrastructural and policy hurdles. So the question is why? Why? And is there a special protocol for voting from outside the country?
This is possible, but then it's a management issue. We need to develop our capacity to do it, number one. The second thing is when we have, polling stations, organized outside the country, the political power of the government will get limited. Because it's not just about casting the vote, it's about exercising political freedoms, and then no foreign country will allow our people to exercise political freedoms in their country in order to effect, our, to take part in our, voting system, the casting vote here. So, and the technology aspect is very important, and you can see that we have not been able to do some little technological changes even in Nepal. And so when doing it internationally, we need a lot of strong the support from the technical team, which the election commission is not capable of at present. But then my point of view was we could have started piloting it from 1 or 2 countries, and then based on our experience this time, we could have gradually further develop our strategy. But that didn't happen at all. So initially the Home Minister was very positive about it, And my comment was, we have a very young, minister, and very hopeful, and good luck. But then there are challenges, and these things have not been done, not because the political representatives didn't want it, simply because they were not able to do it, and not just for the sake of, because of the resources, but also because of capacity and basically technical capacity.
Right, because with a significant population like living outside the geography of Nepal, and even like so many people, living at various parts of inside Nepal's boundaries.
And also, digital voting is not something that that you can do so easily if the voters are not quite educated about certain, digital.
So we need to prepare.
Yeah, you have to educate them. The voters training program have to be initiated. The confidence has to be developed among people living outside, and there are the aging people also who have a problem to live up with technology, and also very young professionals. And obviously, once you allow them, they will have their own demands about timing, about certain structures, and things go on, because you can once you start, you have to be gradually you have to unfold yourself,
right,
and provide opportunities as far as possible. So that was
it is
the challenge,
inevitable.
I think.
It will come, but a lot of preparations needs to be done.
If we
for
start
that, right?
now, probably in the next 5 years, we might be able to start it in certain jurisdictions.
Dr. Adhikari, let's come back to the other part of the conversation now. Let me begin with one of the questions sent in by our viewers. Let me build on a little more on what the viewer said, because when voters deliver a result that is this dramatic, right? Analysts often call it a mandate. Everybody calls it a mandate, but mandates are usually, or it can be, very ambiguous as well. What has been your observation? Did voters vote for the agenda of Rashtriya Swatantra Party, or did they vote against the traditional political establishment?
I think basically they wanted to get rid of the traditional political parties. That's very true. I mean, I thought that Nepali Congress will still perform because there was a change of leadership, and the new leader was certainly a cut above others, and somebody who really one of the smartest politicians in the country. But then people were not able to, recognize, because they wanted to get rid with political parties. It's because of the, habits, the culture, the political culture of the ruling elite that developed a very sinister face during the last 10 years, or even for many decades, I must say. So, but then there are voters who thought of, who went through the party manifesto also, who really thought that there are educated people with RSP. These people are not anyway, lesser in education or performance in their field than others in the political mainstream in Nepal, and also that especially recently Balendra Shah, as a mayor, he performed very well. So the political parties especially, they didn't like him so well, but then people were able to see that the Kathmandu, metropolitan city they lived in was not the same after 3 years. of his tenure as the mayor. So the changes are something that have been noted, and the political side is also very prominent. You can see the mayor comes from Madhesi background, has a Madhesi background, but has a very strong national perspective. That's something many Madhesi leaders lacked in this country. They always talked about their narrow framework rather than talking about the nation. And this gentleman was very different. So he never talked about his ethnicity, talked about the country, the change, the development, the positive scenario that we needed, and he delivered. So that was something that was a very good example that RSP was able to share with the voters in its public programs throughout the country, and that helped the party to really generate interest in its perspectives.
Mm-hmm. So you really mean to say it gathered an appeal for the voters, especially the voters are very what you called action-hungry voters, right?
Absolutely.
That is quite an appeal for the voters, which instigated such a momentum.
Rabi Lamichhane himself, is is an aggressive speaker, who can perform very well in terms of public speech, and that's something. And also that he has his image as a TV journalist, and many people knew him as a journalist who always was on the right side of the history. So that has had certain advantage. And also the new faces, these people were not controversial, the candidates that were given, but rather you can say they were least known but not controversial, and mostly educated. And so in an environment where you don't have good options, they came with options. So the traditional parties have to look back and see where they committed mistake in their election campaigns, and the mistakes are very clear.
Mm-hmm. And even for the new force, Dr. Adhikari, because around the world we've seen movements rise very, very quickly, especially during periods of public frustration, right? But governing requires some really strong administrative capacity, policy frameworks, and institutional coordination, which you already stated the new party or the new force is still gathering and building on. So from your perspective, what would be the most immediate institutional challenge for any new government that emerges from this election?
I think the party will obviously it will be overwhelmed by expectations from the voters, and also we have a concept of quickly talking about 100 days and accomplishment within this period. It's rubbish. I don't believe in it. But then this is how Nepali voters think. This issue is also there. But then once the government is formed, the government will have to do what they have promised. Very small things. To bring in changes which are very significant in the country, you have to first of all stop politicization of bureaucracy, stop it outright. And once the bureaucracy comes back to normal, it has enormous talent, a lot of capacity, the historical knowledge, and there are institutions and practices that are enough to sustain our governance system. So the second thing is political appointments. Stop appointing people who are politically biased. Go for professionals and people with real capacity, and the people with optimum capacity, in the positions that they deserve most. And once the three things are done together, I think the whole scenario will change. This is a country with abundance of resources. We don't suffer from lack of resources. The money is not an issue. The reputation of the country is still very good, and we have a very good network of relationship internationally. Now that the government has to balance international relations, make sure that our processes are autonomous, and with young people and leaders like RSP, the challenge is to make sure that the new establishment is believed by both our neighbors as well as the international community. And that's very significant because they very often tilt towards one side and lose the goodwill of the other. And this is not how a country can go forward. So similarly, the budget, our national budget is always underspent, less utilized. The development programs have not been successful. So the management capacity has been a disaster because the people who have been recruited are incompetent people. Once these competent peoples are on board, things will have a very positive scenario. And Nepalis have been looking forward to see that democracy is at work. And that is something that the new government will have to assure. And these little things mean a lot to the common people. And they know that the government is not going to distribute cash to them. So nobody is expecting it. They want that the service delivery is not obstructed. So whatever is there in law is hopefully in reality as well. So this is something that comes as a challenge. And capacity, obviously, as we go along, we can develop, but then norms and practices we can improve immediately. And this is the challenge for the new leadership.
Mm-hmm. And in the midst of all this, how do you perceive the role of bureaucracy and the bureaucratic cooperation?
Bureaucracy, I think we have, even now, I think, well, I come from the independent sector, not from the public sector as such. But then this is very clear that even now, today, the government is the biggest employer in the country. It is the smartest of all the employers. It goes through Public Service Commission. The talented people are here. It was only that the working environment was bad because it was politically tainted. Now that once there is a professional government which knows what is the limit to its power, certainly the bureaucracy will be able to help the new government by all means. And it's now, once you don't divide the bureaucracy politically, obviously you can take the help of everybody there. And we have very eminent people there, very trained, people with expertise. And I said, even now, we have the best lawyers in the bureaucracy. Best, accountants are there in the bureaucracy. I can say that the best policymakers are there. So the government resources have been underutilized. And now that once there is a government which does not have to feed its cadre, obviously it can build on its strength. And I think if there is, they take the due course, these things will eventually come, the alignment will gradually be developed.
Mm-hmm. And now, let me come to one of the most fundamental questions, Dr. Adhikari. Nepal's constitution is still relatively very, very young. And if a relatively new party, suddenly dominates the House of Representatives, does that suggest the system is working? because voters can dramatically change leadership like what we are seeing right now? Or does it suggest the system hasn't been delivering, prompting voters to seek an entirely new political force, right? So does this election reopen the debate about constitutional reform?
I think, well, there are always some people talking about constitutional amendment, but amendment is not a game of chance. You have to plan it. You have to think about it with certain homework, and that has to be done by the government first. The government has to study where does it want changes. And once it is clear about its proposal, it can then, go to public platforms. Obviously, it can come out with a green paper and then start discussing it at popular level. So that has not happened in Nepal. And if you believe me, you see, I saw at present we don't have any anti-constitutional voice in Nepal. If people are talking about it against the constitution, they are in their drawing rooms, not in the public forums. You can see even Biplav, the only left out politician who didn't endorse this constitution, was also seen voting this time. Okay, so you can see we don't have anti-constitutional voice. Many Madhesis, many Janjatis, many deprived people, they want to see that this constitution is implemented according to its own standards. So whatever is being offered is not being actualized, is not being operationalized. We want to see these provisions, must be implemented so that the people, the affected interest, really could feel that, okay, there is a change in the system now, and now our plight is also changing. Now that has not happened. So the first challenge is to implement the constitution, and of course there are people who think that our federalism, the federalization process has not worked. I mean, we can look into it. That's an important aspect of our constitutional process. Similarly, there are many economic, social and cultural rights. They need to be enforced very strongly, and that has not been done. We can see what is the problem with the relevant laws. Similarly, we can also see that there are many constitutional commissions. They need to be boosted up so that they are relevant in terms of our governance system, and that needs to be done. There are so many issues, but I don't think there are issues that places us in the margin of life and death. It's untrue. It's simply not the case.
Right. This question or concern has come to the fore, especially owing to a few statements or reservations embraced by the members of the newly constituted political force, the emerging political force, right? So the clarity, as you said, is yet to come for the
position. But let me tell you that I've gone through the party manifesto of RSP. I mean, they don't talk about constitutional amendment. So very smartly, they didn't want to, enter into controversies at the polling center. So that was very smart way. And now that they are, once they start leading the government, they can obviously, as constitute a task force on constitutional amendment. And in fact, the present government has already signed, an understanding with the Genji representatives about, organizing the constituting task force in order to reform the constitution. So it's a commitment of the government already. So the new government can work on it, but it's a slow process. You don't have to go for high jump. No need. This is a process that has to go stepwise, and don't create bombs before you start.
Right.
So that is possible.
Right. Should a scenario or a situation like this arise, Dr. Adhikari, is Nepal ready for a constitutional amendment, or let me rephrase it, or would reopening that debate risk destabilizing the political system again?
I think now the government, the new government, will be a strong government, at least in terms of ballot papers. It had that capacity to bring to introduce its concept about changes in the constitution. So it can talk about it because it has the control system at work now. It doesn't rely on coalition anymore. So if it feels it has to go ahead, it can start with a moderate planning. But then I think it can, the challenge is to implement the constitution so that we really know what exactly are its problems. I mean, we are hypothesizing, talking about something we don't know fully. I'm a constitutional expert, but I feel that even today there are many provisions in the Constitution that have not been given enough opportunity towards implementation. It's because the government of the day thought that it's not necessary. For example, the Constitution has a provision for creation of autonomous regions. I mean, there are many people who are thinking in terms of, protecting their identity through the political structures. The Constitution had that vision in the document, but then that has not been done. No law has been passed towards that, particular objective, and so many people feel that okay, we are a minority, or we are a small ethnic group or deprived ethnic group, and we are not able to have our own regional system, even though the Constitution has offered it. So that's something that's we should not lie about our political system. If it is there in the Constitution, it has to be on the ground as well, and that is something that has to be explored now. That there is a constitution, the new government, which does not have any controversies with it. Of course, with leadership there are certain issues, even with RSP, but then these are always there in a lively political system. But once the government is instituted, it can go through all these constitutional provisions and make sure that they are implemented to know what are the reforms actually needed, so that we can do the job better. So the Constitution has a framework. So there we talk about constitutional change so much. This is not necessary. This Constitution can be used for present purpose even without amendment if there are right set of people able to implement it. So this is what we have to think.
Thank you, Dr. Adhikari. Thank you so much for coming over and sharing your very insightful thoughts.
My pleasure.
Right. The election results suggest that Nepal may be entering a new phase in its democratic journey. A new political force appears to have captured the aspirations of voters who have grown impatient with instability and political stagnation. But elections are only the opening chapter, and Nepal's political system is shaped by institutions, federal structures, and the constitutional framework established under the Constitution of Nepal 2015. Those institutions move more slowly than electoral waves. So the real question now is whether this moment of political change can translate into something more durable, stable, governance and institutional reform and renewed public trust. And that was a discourse that we had with our constitutional expert. And that's it from this special dialogue program. We'll continue to bring in you more aspects of the Nepal elections 2026 in our programs that will follow in the following days. Until then, from the entire team, goodbye.
The conflict between Israel and Iran has entered its third week as both sides exchange fresh attacks, raising concerns over a broader regional escalation. Dozens have been reported killed. Iran launched multiple barrages of missiles at Israel and has claimed attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Kuwait. In response, the Israel Defense Forces said it carried out wide-scale strikes on multiple targets in western Iran. Israel's foreign minister has accused Iran of targeting civilians after a new wave of Iranian missiles was launched towards Israel.
While we are targeting military objectives, military targets, regime targets, this evil regime in Iran, the Iranian regime is targeting civilians, civilian population, and all the casualties we faced during these 2 weeks of confrontation. As much it is the same thing that during the days of Operation Rising Lion, all without an exception are civilians from the Iranian missiles.
The renewed exchange of attacks marks another escalation in the ongoing hostilities, with international calls growing for restraint and diplomatic efforts to prevent further expansion of the conflict. U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran wants to make a deal to end the ongoing conflict, but the proposed terms are not good enough as fighting involving the United States and Israel entered its third week. Though he refused to say what those terms would be, Trump said an Iranian commitment to abandon any nuclear ambitions would be a part of the potential deal. Trump also threatened additional strikes on Karg Island, a key Iranian oil export terminal, and urged allied nations to deploy warships to secure the Strait of Hormuz, a critical route for global energy supplies. The U.S. has called on the U.K. and other nations to help secure the Strait of Hormuz. The comments signaled a sharp escalation as tensions remain high and diplomatic efforts to end the conflict face growing uncertainty. Concerns also have intensified over disruptions to oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz, a passage that handles roughly 1/5 of the world's oil trade, raising fears of prolonged volatility in the global energy markets. UN Chief Antonio Guterres says that attacks against peacekeepers in Lebanon may constitute war crimes. The United Nations chief made the remarks while addressing the safety of international peacekeeping forces operating in the country. He warned that targeting peacekeepers is a serious violation of international law and emphasized the need to ensure their protection.
Attacks against peacekeepers and positions are completely unacceptable and they must stop. They are in breach of international law and may constitute war crimes.
Guterres also called for accountability for any attacks against peacekeeping personnel and stressed the importance of respecting the mandates of UN missions deployed to maintain stability and security in the region. The UN chief also called for intensified diplomatic efforts to prevent further escalation and restore stability in Lebanon. Guterres said that diplomatic avenues are available to stop the war in Lebanon.
Stop the fighting. Stop the bombing. There is no military solution. Only diplomacy, dialogue, and full implementation of the UN Charter and Security Council resolutions. The diplomatic avenues are available.
The UN chief's remarks come amid rising cross-border tensions and ongoing clashes that have raised concerns about a broader conflict in the region. At least 62 people have been killed in Kenya over the past week after heavy rains caused widespread flooding. The previous death toll released a week ago was 42. Overnight, 11 people were rescued after a minibus taxi got stuck as water rose in the capital Nairobi, according to the Kenya Red Cross, while 2 children were saved from a flooded house. The heavy rainfall over the past week has triggered flash floods not seen in years. Rivers have burst their banks, flooding homes and damaging roads. Power and water lines. Some roads have been closed after bridges were damaged in Nairobi, while some schools were flooded after Saturday's downpour. The Interior Ministry warned on Sunday that different parts of the country are continuing to experience heavy rains, increasing the risk of flooding. Police say the search and rescue operations are continuing following the torrential rain and subsequent devastating flooding affecting the various parts of the country. President William Ruto had said that emergency food supplies and medical assistance are being delivered to those affected. China's 40th Naval Escort Task Force recently conducted multi-subject training exercises in the Gulf of Aden to strengthen its operational readiness and mission execution capabilities in one of the world's most piracy-prone maritime regions. The drills carried out in waters known for past pirate activity were designed to simulate real combat scenarios and test the fleet's rapid response, coordinated deployment, and precision firepower. The exercise began with the main gun firing order, initiating a series of anti-piracy and escort mission training activities. The training focused on responding to potential maritime threats and improving the fleet's ability to protect commercial shipping routes and conduct long-distance escort missions. The exercise also aimed to strengthen operational coordination among crew members while operating under complex sea and air conditions in the Gulf of Aden. Such conditions provide a realistic environment for naval personnel to refine tactics and improve readiness for real-world maritime security operations. China has maintained a regular naval presence in the Gulf of Aden for escort missions and anti-piracy operations, contributing to international maritime security and the protection of global shipping lanes. The latest drills are intended to further enhance the fleet's ability to carry out long-range missions while supporting stability and safety in international waters. Bears at the White Rock Bear Sanctuary have begun emerging from winter hibernation, marking the arrival of spring in the region near Kiev. The sanctuary, which rescues and rehabilitates bears evacuated from frontline areas, former circus animals, and wildlife kept in private captivity, reported that several animals have started leaving their dens as temperatures gradually rise. Among the first to awaken are Chada, a rare Tianzhen bear, and Xiongchok, a brown bear. Both bears were observed emerging from their winter shelters and moving around the sanctuary grounds after months of hibernation. The facility provides long-term care and rehabilitation for rescued bears, many of which were relocated from conflict-affected areas or unsuitable captive environments. The awakening of the animals signals the seasonal transition as wildlife activity resumes with the onset of spring in the region. Residents in the Beijing are getting a taste of the future as humanoid robots receive certification to process the online medicine orders, marking the latest push by China to expand artificial intelligence AI's role to healthcare services. As part of the country's first pilot zone for the large-scale application of intelligent pharmacy robots, a retail pharmacy in Beijing recently obtained its drug distribution certificate. Galbot, a humanoid robot that has won over audiences during the Year of the Horse's Spring Festival Gala, the world's most watched television event, with its impressive skills in picking up glass, folding clothes, and grilling sausages, has now officially started working at the drugstore. It has become the country's first certified intelligent retail robot for pharmaceuticals. Once an order is placed without any human intervention, the robot can autonomously retrieve, verify, and dispense the medication. Customers simply need to confirm the last 4 digits of their phone number to collect their purchase. These humanoid drugstore clocks are packed with high technology. According to the developers, real-world commercial settings present significant challenges due to the wide variety of medicine packaging shapes, demanding a lot of the robot's capabilities. Snow-covered landscapes have transformed Idar Plateau into a striking winter scene as snowfall continues across the highland destination in the northeastern Turkey. Located in Rize province, the plateau is known for its traditional wooden houses and scenic mountain environment. Recent snowfall has blanketed the plateau's forest, rooftops, and surrounding landscapes, creating a prominent winter view across the area. Light snowfall and cold weather conditions have continued to affect the plateau in recent days. Intermittent snow has increased snow depth to approximately 60 centimeters in some parts of the highland region. The accumulation of snow has covered the plateau's forest and traditional structures in white, significantly altering the landscape and highlighting the area's natural features during the winter season. Hollywood stars are gearing up for Sunday night's Oscars in an exciting year for the awards race where several categories are too close to call. Political thriller One Battle After Another is the favorite to win Best Picture, but it faces top competition from vampire horror Sinners, which has a record-breaking of 16 nominations. Irish star Jessie Buckley is considered to be the strong frontrunner to win Best Actress for her performance in Hamnet, but the other acting races are tighter with stars such as Michael B. Jordan, Timothée Chalamet, Amy Madigan, Unmi Moshaku, and Sean Penn all in competition. Conan O'Brien is returning to hosting duties this year after a remarkable performance in 2025, where he performed comedic musical numbers and also roasted the nominees in his opening monologue. There might be 10 pictures nominated for Best Picture, but the race for the top category has boiled down to 2 movies: political thriller One Battle After Another and vampire horror Sinners. One Battle is the clear front-runner after a string of big wins at the earlier ceremonies, and its director Paul Thomas Anderson is widely predicted to finally win his first Oscar for directing. Country music is gaining rapid popularity across the United Kingdom, drawing increasing number of younger fans and filling major live events across the country. Around 45,000 fans are expected to attend the annual Country to Country Festival, the largest country music event in the UK. The event brings together the leading performers from the United States and the United Kingdom for a series of concerts celebrating the genre. The festival features country music stars traveling across the Atlantic to perform for British audiences, reflecting the growing influence of genre outside its traditional base in the United States. Attendees often embrace the culture associated with the music, with many wearing cowboy boots and hats while participating in activities such as line dancing during the event. The increasing attendance at the large-scale festivals and the rising interest among younger listeners highlight the expanding presence of the country music within the UK's contemporary music scene. Tourism on Vietnam's Phu Quoc Island has surged in the first 2 months of 2026, with visitors' numbers rising sharply as the Vietnamese resort destination continues to gain international popularity. According to local tourism authorities, the island welcomed more than 2.2 million visitors between January and February, marking a 57.7% increase compared with the same period last year. The growth was driven largely by a strong rise in international travel. Officials said international arrivals jumped by around 86% year-on-year, reflecting the island's growing reputation as a major tourism hub in Vietnam. Local officials said efforts are also underway to improve tourism services and strengthen environmental protection, aiming to ensure sustainable growth while preserving the island's natural attractions. Looking ahead, Phu Quoc is preparing to host the APEC Economic Leaders Week 2027, a major international event expected to significantly raise the island's global profile and further boost its development as a leading regional travel destination.
Votekosi and Trisuli river rafting. Rafting has lately been gaining popularity among tourists. The adventure sport, which previously was popular only among foreigners, is now drawing the local tourists as well. Trisuli and Votekosi rivers that are close to Kathmandu are 2 popular destinations for rafting in Bagmati province. Let us first explore Votekosi. Whitewater rafting at Votekosi river is included among the 10 best adventure destinations for rafting in the world. Votekosi, which is well facilitated with food and accommodation, can be a great destination for rafting and other adventure sports. Rafting at Trisuli River is popular among domestic tourists, as the location can be reached in an hour from Kathmandu. This is where most tourists go for rafting in Nepal. Rafting packages of Votekosi and Trisuli are appropriate for those who want to spend some good time for a few days.
जानकी मन्दिर महर्षि जनकको पुण्यभूमि, माता जानकीको पवित्र जन्मस्थल। देश विदेशमा परिचित जनकपुर धाम मध्य प्रदेशको मात्र नभई अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय स्तरमै प्रख्यात पवित्र भूमि। सबैको पूजनीय ठाउँ जनकपुर धाम। महेन्द्र राजमार्गको ढल्केबरबाट करिब 21 किलोमिटर दक्षिण लागेपछि शहीद गेट हुँदै रामानन्द चोक पुग्न सकिन्छ। जनकपुरको ठूलो प्रवेशद्वार रामानन्द प्रवेशद्वार। 4वटा ठूलो पिलरमा बनाइएको रामानन्द प्रवेशद्वारको माथि स्वामी रामानन्दको प्रतिमा छ। यो प्रवेशद्वारलाई जनकपुरवासीले जनकपुरको गौरव समेत मान्ने गरेका छन्। रामानन्द चोकबाट करिब 1 किलोमिटर पूर्व गएपछि मिथिलाञ्चलवासीको सांस्कृतिक धरोहर जानकी मन्दिर पुग्न सकिन्छ। मध्य प्रदेशको राजधानी जनकपुरमा अवस्थित यो मन्दिर नेपालमा भएका मन्दिरहरूमध्ये क्षेत्रफलका आधारमा सबैभन्दा ठूलो मन्दिर हो। मन्दिर निर्माणको 125 वर्ष जति मात्र भए पनि यसमा स्थापित राम जानकीको प्रतिमा भने झण्डै 700 वर्ष पुरानो भएको संस्कृतिविदहरूको भनाइ छ।
20औं शताब्दीको प्रारम्भमा भनौं त्यति बेला एकजना मध्य प्रदेशकै ओर्छा स्टेट छ, त्यहाँ त्यसको राजधानी टिकमगढ छ। त्यहाँकी रानीले आएर अहिलेको जानकी मन्दिरको जुन ढाँचा अहिले देखिएको छ, जो देशमा सबैभन्दा ठूलो ढाँचा मन्दिरको रूपमा एउटा छ, त्यो राजस्थानी शैली र मुगल शैली दुईटीको मिश्रित रूपमा यहाँ बनाइदिएको हो त्यो मन्दिर। त्यसपछि यहाँ विकास भएको हो।
विक्रम सम्वत 1968 सालमा निर्माण सम्पन्न भएको यो मन्दिर धार्मिक र सांस्कृतिक हिसाबले सम्पन्न मैथिली सभ्यताको धरोहर हो। पवित्र हिन्दू धर्मस्थलको रूपमा चिनिने जानकी मन्दिर मुगल शैलीमा निर्माण गरिएको छ। पाँच 500 वर्ष पुरानो इतिहास बोकेको यो मन्दिर 4860 वर्ग फिटमा फैलिएको छ भने 50 फिट अग्लो रहेको छ। नेपालको ख्याति प्राप्त यो मन्दिरलाई कलाको उत्कृष्ट नमुना मान्न सकिन्छ। प्राचीन मिथिलाको राजधानी जनकपुरमा अवस्थित जानकी मन्दिर विश्वभरका हिन्दूहरूको आस्थाको केन्द्रबिन्दु हो। यो मन्दिर भारत मध्य प्रदेश स्थित टिकमगढकी राजकुमारी वृषभानुकुमारीले 9 लाख चाँदीका असर्फी खर्च गरेर निर्माण गरिएको हो भन्ने किम्वदन्ती छ। त्यसैले यो मन्दिरलाई 9 लाखा मन्दिर पनि भन्ने गरिन्छ।
खर्चमा 9 लाख रुपियाँ खर्च भएको थियो। त्यो बेलाको शासनमा 1910 तिरको 9 लाख भन्दाखेरि त अहिले त अर्बौं खर्बौंमा जान्छ। अनि त्यो खर्च भएको हुनाले यसलाई 9 लाख भनिएको हो कि भन्ने बुझिन्छ।
प्राचीन मिथिला हिन्दू तथा मुस्लिम कलाको समुचित समायोजनबाट निर्मित जानकी मन्दिर कलाकृतिले समेत भरिपूर्ण ठाउँ हो। सीताको जन्मभूमि र राम सीताको विवाह भएको पुण्यभूमि भएकाले पनि यो ठाउँ सबैको आस्थाको केन्द्र बनेको छ।
सीतामढ़ी से हम लोग जनकपुर धाम पर आए हैं। माँ जानकी का यह पालन स्थल है, जन्म स्थल पुनौरा भूमि हुआ। वहाँ से राजा जनक जी पुनौरा धाम से माँ जानकी को यहाँ अपने दरबार में अपना यहाँ उनका साम्राज्य था, उस साम्राज्य में अपना यहाँ उनका लालन पालन हुआ है और काफ़ी धार्मिक आस्था है। जगत जननी माँ सीता का यह लालन पालन का स्थल है और हम लोग इसी आस्था से माँ जानकी के आशीर्वाद लेने हेतु यहाँ पर पहुँचे हुए।
धार्मिक तथा सांस्कृतिक रूपमा सम्पन्न यो मन्दिर मिथिलाञ्चलवासीको सांस्कृतिक धरोहरको रूपमा रहेको छ। मैथिली सभ्यताको प्रतीकको रूपमा रहेको यो मन्दिरमा श्रद्धा एवं निष्ठापूर्वक पूजाआजा गरे मनको शान्ति मिल्नुका साथै मनोकामना पूरा हुने जनविश्वास छ।
यहाँ पे हम जानते हैं कि सीता माता का जन्म स्थान है यहाँ पे, तो हम यहाँ उनके हम राम और कृष्णा दोनों एक मानते हैं। तो हम राम जी के बारे में और जानकी के बारे में ज़्यादा जानना चाहते हैं, जानकी माता के बारे में, इसीलिए यहाँ आए, उनका जन्म स्थान देखना चाहते हैं।
यहाँ आएपछि त भित्री आत्मादेखि असाध्य खुसी लाग्छ क्या। जति जे हाम्रो मनभित्र हुन्छ नि, बाहिर कतै हुँदाखेरि हामीभित्र जुन मनमा चलिरहेको हुन्छ नि, यहाँ आएपछि त बेग्लै महसुस भइरहेको हुन्छ क्या, त्यस्तो हुन्छ।
ऐतिहासिक, धार्मिक तथा पर्यटकीय क्षेत्रको रूपमा रहेको यो मन्दिरभित्र पर्यटकलाई लोभ्याउने कलाकृति र सौन्दर्यताकै कारण यहाँ देश विदेशबाट हजारौंको संख्यामा दर्शनार्थीहरूको भीड़ लाग्ने गर्दछ। यहाँको कला कौशलताले सजी सजाऊ मन्दिरसँगै वरिपरि रहेको हरियाली वातावरणले पर्यटकहरूलाई थप आकर्षित गर्नुका साथै ऊर्जा समेत प्रदान गर्ने गर्दछ।
बहुत दिनों की इच्छा थी कि मैं माता के स्थान पे आऊं, है ना, और आने का मुझे सौभाग्य हुआ और मुझे बहुत ही दिल से खुशी हो रही है कि मुझे इनका दर्शन हुआ। और जिस तरह से यहाँ पे संरक्षण किया गया है, इससे मुझे बहुत ही संतुष्टि हो रही है और सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और मैं भगवान का आभार प्रकट करती हूँ कि मुझे दर्शन का सौभाग्य मिला।
जानकी मन्दिर छेउमा रहेको भगवान सीतारामको विवाह मण्डप स्थल, जानकी मन्दिरको उत्तरतर्फ रहेको राम जानकी विवाह मण्डप जनकपुर धामको अर्को धार्मिक एवं दर्शनीय स्थल हो। श्री राम जानकी विवाह मण्डपको चारैतिर पारदर्शी सीसा लगाइएकाले वरिपरि रहेका सम्पूर्ण देवताहरूको दर्शन बाहिरबाटै गर्न सकिन्छ। सीतारामका भव्य मूर्तिहरू मध्यभागमा देवीका मूर्तिहरू राखिएका छन्। गर्भ मण्डपभित्र कलात्मक स्तम्भहरू छन्। यी स्तम्भहरूमा विभिन्न देवी देवताहरूका 4-4 वटाका दरले मूर्तिहरू जोडेर राखिएका छन्। मण्डपको माथि शिरमा रहेको गजुरले यसको रौनकतालाई अझै बढाएको छ। यहाँ विवाह पञ्चमीमा भारत अयोध्याबाट लाखौं मानिसहरू जन्ती बनेर आउने गर्दछन्। जानकी मन्दिर, राम मन्दिर लगायतका मठ मन्दिरहरूबाट बाजागाजा सहित निस्किने झाँकी नगरको विभिन्न भागको परिक्रमा गर्दै ऐतिहासिक रंगभूमि 12 बिघा मैदानमा पुगी राम र जानकीको स्वयंवर हुने गर्दछ। विवाह पञ्चमीको अवसरमा जानकी मन्दिर, राम मन्दिर, जनक मन्दिर, विवाह मण्डप, शिव मन्दिर लगायतका मठ मन्दिरहरूमा बिहानैदेखि साधु सन्त, भक्तजन र दर्शनार्थीहरूको घुइँचो लाग्ने गर्दछ। विवाह पञ्चमी मेला भर्न नेपालका विभिन्न स्थानका साथै भारतबाट समेत भक्तजनहरू जनकपुर धाम आउने गर्दछन्।
विवाह पञ्चमी यहाँको सबभन्दा ठुलो महत्त्वपूर्ण पर्व हो। उसमा चाहिँ बढी भिड हुन्छ, सबैतिरबाट मान्छे आउँछ, अयोध्याबाट जयन्ती आउँछ, लोकल मान्छेको पनि भिड हुन्छ। बिहा पञ्चमी ठुलो मेला हुन्छ यहाँको। हुन त सबै महिनामा छ, अब यो साउनमा यो असारको पूर्णिमा गुरु पूजा हुन्छ, उसमा पनि लाग्छ। श्रावणमा झुला हुन्छ नि, हरियाली तीज भन्छ, झुल्ने प्रक्रिया छ, त्यो पनि हुन्छ। भदौमा चाहिँ जन्माष्टमी हुन्छ, यस्तै आश्विनमा दुर्गा पूजा, कार्तिकमा अन्नकुट दिवालीहरू हुन्छ। अनि फेरि मङ्सिरमा बिहा पञ्चमी हुन्छ, यो फाल्गुनमा परिक्रमा हुन्छ 15 दिनको, चैतमा रामनवमी हुन्छ, वैशाखमा जानकी नवमी हुन्छ। सबै महिनामा केही न केही पर्व भइरहन्छ।
जनकपुर धामको पौराणिकतालाई दर्शाउने मणि मण्डप, भगवान राम र माता सीताको विवाह भएको स्थलको रूपमा ख्याति प्राप्त मणि मण्डप पुरातात्विक दृष्टिले अति नै प्राचीन मानिन्छ। यो मण्डपले मिथिला सभ्यताको प्राचीनतालाई समेत दर्शाउँदछ।
यो तपाईको त्रेता युगमा जुन समयमा भगवान रामको बिहे भएको थियो नि, त्यो बेलाको यो मण्डप हो। या यो भूमि छ नि, जुन माटो छ नि, हाम्रो पूर्वजले यो माटोलाई नै पूजा गरेको थियो पहिला। अहिले तपाईको त्यो बाँसको झोपडी बनाएर पूजा गर्दै आइरहेको थियो। त्यसपछि यो तपाईको 2007 इन्डियाको डेटमा जयपुरको अनुसार यो बनाएको।
जनकपुरबाट करिब 17 किलोमिटर उत्तरमा धनुषा धाम रहेको छ। राजा जनकले आफ्नी छोरी सीताका लागि आयोजना गरेको स्वयंवरमा भगवान रामले तोडेको शिवजीको धनुषको 3 टुक्रा मध्ये एक टुक्रा यही झरेको थियो भन्ने मान्यता छ। यही स्थानमा अहिले धनुष मन्दिर समेत रहेको छ। जानकी मन्दिर दर्शन गर्ने जो कोही धनुषा धाम पुग्ने गर्दछन्। जानकी मन्दिर पुग्ने भक्तजनहरूले धनुषा धामको दर्शन नगरे दर्शन पूरा नहुने महन्तहरू बताउनुहुन्छ।
सीता र रामजीको बीचमा एउटा जुन वैवाहिक बन्धन भएछ, त्यसको प्रतीक रूपमा त्यो धनुष हो। त्यो स्वयं भगवानको हातबाट भाँचिएको र स्वयं परशुराम पनि एउटा भगवानको अवतारले चाहिँ त्यो धनुष, शिवजीको धनुष जनकले दिएको हुनाले त्यसको महात्म्य हेर्ने हो भने रामेश्वरम चाहिँ पछि स्थापना गर्नुभएछ भगवान रामले। त्यो धनुष चाहिँ आफ्नो हातबाट त्योभन्दा पहिला स्थापना गर्नुभएको हुनाले त्यो पनि एउटा दर्शनको ठुलो महत्त्वपूर्ण स्थान हो धनुषा धाम। र त्यो राम र सीताको बीचको एउटा प्रतीक रूपमा त्यो धनुष मानिन्छ। र जनकपुर आउने दर्शनार्थीलाई यदि धनुषको दर्शन भएन भने पूर्ण दर्शन हुँदैन, अधुरो दर्शन हुन्छ।
त्रेताकालीन इतिहास बोकेको जनकपुरको धनुष सागर, 3 टुक्रा भएको शिवजीको धनुष मध्ये एक टुक्रा पातालमा गएको थियो भन्ने किंवदन्ती अनुसार सोही स्थानमा पोखरीको आकार लिएको मान्यता छ। आज सोही स्थानलाई धनुष सागरको नामले चिन्ने गरिन्छ। जानकी मन्दिरको छेवैमा रहेको राम मन्दिर, जानकी मन्दिर पुग्ने जो कोही राम मन्दिर पुग्ने गर्दछन्। जानकी मन्दिरको निर्माण भन्दा पहिले नै निर्मित यो मन्दिरको निर्माण प्यागोडा शैलीमा गरिएको छ। राम मन्दिरलाई झट्ट हेर्दा पशुपतिनाथ मन्दिरको झल्को आउँछ। राम मन्दिरमा पञ्चायन मूर्ति, लक्ष्मी नारायण, विष्णु अवतारको मूर्ति, अन्य देवी देवताको नित्य पूजा अर्चना गर्ने गर्दछ। मन्दिरमा रहेका ती मूर्तिहरू चतुर्भुज गिरीले फेला पारेका थिए। तिनै सन्तले पछि मन्दिरमै रहेको वरको रुखमुनि मूर्तिहरू राखेर पूजा सुरु गरेका थिए भन्ने भनाइ छ।
सुरकिशोर दासाका थिए, उनकै समकालीन एउटा अर्को सन्यासी चतुर्भुज गिरी पनि आएका थिए भनिन्छ। भने जोशी मठका पनि त्यहाँका सन्यासी थिए, शङ्कराचार्यका शिष्य थिए भने। अनि यहाँ उनी पनि मिथिला खोज्दै जनकपुर आएका थिए। यहाँ बस्दाखेरि एउटा भनाइ के छ भने उनी यहाँ आउँदाखेरि अहिले जहाँ राम मन्दिर छ त्यो राम मन्दिरकै ठाउँमा एउटा रुखमुनि बसेका थिए। उनीलाई स्वप्न भयो अरे, त्यो भनाइ छ एउटा किंवदन्ती जस्तो। उनले त्यहाँ खन्दाखेरि त्यहाँबाट मूर्तिहरू फेला पारे, लक्ष्मीनारायणका मूर्तिहरू अहिले पनि त्यहाँ लक्ष्मीनारायणका मूर्तिहरू त्यहाँ छ त्यहाँ, र अहिले राम मन्दिरका भएका मूर्तिहरू पनि छन्। तुलना गर्न त्यसपछि त्यहाँ एउटा मठ उनले पनि बनाएका थिए। त्यहाँ सुरुमा ऊ थियो भनिन्छ। अहिले जुन देखिन्छ नि त्यो ऐतिहासिक तथ्यहरूले के भन्छन् भने यो चौथो ढाँचा हो जो अहिले देखिएको हो। त्यहाँ सुरुमा एउटा मठ जस्तो रह्यो होला, पछि त्यसलाई मकवानी राजाहरूले पनि ढाँचा त्यहाँ खडा गरिदिए त्यहाँ मन्दिरहरू। त्यो तुलना गर्नु भनेपछि जानकी मन्दिर अलि भारतीय उसँग बढी नजिक देखिन्थ्यो भनेपछि राम मन्दिरका जुन सन्यासीहरू त्यहाँ अहिले पनि त्यहाँ गिरी नै हुन्छ। त्यहाँ दुईटा फरक के छ भने यो जानकी मन्दिर वैष्णवी मठ हो, रामानन्दीहरूको मठ हो, अनि त्यो सन्यासीहरूको मठ हो।
जनकपुर धामका पुराना मन्दिरहरूमध्ये लक्ष्मण मन्दिर पनि एउटा हो। यो मन्दिर जानकी मन्दिर अगाडिको विशाल प्राङ्गणको उत्तर पूर्वमा पर्दछ। यस मन्दिरमा मुख्य रूपमा भगवान सीताराम, लक्ष्मण र लवकुशका धातुका मूर्तिहरू राखेर पूजा आजा गरिन्छ। राजा जनककै नामले प्रख्यात नगरी जनकपुर धाममा रहेको जनक मन्दिर प्राचीनताको अर्को नमुना हो। यो मन्दिर धनुष सागरको उत्तर पश्चिम डिलमा अवस्थित छ। गंगा सागरको डिलमा शिव मन्दिर रहेको छ। शिवरात्रि लगायतका पर्वहरूमा मन्दिरमा ठूलै संख्यामा दर्शनार्थीहरूको घुइँचो लाग्ने गर्दछ। गंगा सागरको उत्तर पश्चिम तथा शिवचोकमा रहेको यो मन्दिरको निर्माण 2038 सालमा गरिएको हो। यो मन्दिरको निर्माण भने शिखर शैलीमा गरिएको छ। जानकी मन्दिरमा बिहान 7 बजे र बेलुका 8 बजे आरती हुने गर्दछ। संगीतमय यो आरती हेर्नका लागि श्रद्धालुहरूको भीड़ नै लाग्ने गर्दछ। बिहानको पूजा पाठ हो वा दिउँसोको रामायण पाठ अथवा भजन कीर्तनदेखि साँझको आरतीसम्म यहाँ भक्तजनहरूको भीड़ लाग्ने गर्दछ। यसले जानकी मन्दिर प्रतिको आस्था र विश्वासलाई समेत झल्काउने गर्दछ।
आस्था ठुलो छ यो क्षेत्रमा। जनकपुरको विकासको क्रममा हेर्ने भने यो दुईटा मन्दिर सम्भवतः नभएको भए जनकपुर मेटिन्थ्यो अथवा स्थापित हुने थिएन। किनभने धेरै प्राचीन पश्चिमी विद्वानहरू जसले अनुसन्धान गरेका छ जनकपुर बारेमा, उनीहरू पनि भनाइ के छ भने जनकपुर धेरैचोटि बसिसकेका छ, धेरैचोटि उजाड भइसकेका छ, यसको इतिहास त्यही भन्छ। तर यो दुईटा मन्दिरले गर्दाखेरि यहाँ के भयो भने विभिन्न कुटीहरूको स्थापना पनि भयो, जातीय कुटीहरूको स्थापना भयो। विभिन्न जातले आफ्नो आफ्नो कुटीहरूको स्थापना गरे, गाउँ घरमा बसेका थियो, तर कुटीको स्थापना जनकपुरमा गरे, किनभने जनकपुरमा आएर पुण्य कमाउनु छ।
दिउँसो 12 बजेदेखि 4 बजेसम्म भने गर्भगृहको ढोका बन्द रहन्छ। गर्भगृह पछाडि सांस्कृतिक संग्रहालय रहेको छ। यो संग्रहालयले यहाँ आउने जो कोहीको मन लोभ्याउने गर्दछ। यो संग्रहालयले हलेश्वरी महायज्ञ भएर सीता फेला परेदेखि सीतारामको विवाह भएसम्मको झझल्को दिलाउने गर्दछ। जानकी मन्दिरमा हुने महन्तको कुनै पनि व्यक्तिगत व्यवहार, कुल, परिवार नहुने यो वैष्णव धर्मको परम्पराले सञ्चालन भइरहेको छ। वैराग्य परम्पराले चल्ने यो मन्दिरको हालको पुजारी महन्त राम तपेश्वर दास हुनुहुन्छ।
महन्तको 2, 4, 10, 20टा चेला हुन्छ। त्यो चेला मध्ये चाहिँ यहाँको नगर समाज, यहाँको महन्तजी होइन, जसलाई लायक सम्झिन्छ उसलाई चाहिँ बनाउँछ। मरेपछि उसलाई दाह क्रिया गर्छ। त्यसपछि यहाँको समाज उसैलाई महन्त बनाइदिन्छ अनि गुड्स स्थान उसैलाई समर्थन दिइदिन्छ। यही परम्परा छ अहिलेसम्म।
छुटगुठीको रूपमा रहेको यो ऐतिहासिक मन्दिर भेटीबाट सञ्चालन हुने गर्दछ। छुटगुठी भएकै कारणले 3 तहकै सरकारसँगैका कुनै पनि गुठी संस्थानले यसमा लगानी गरेको छैन। 12 महिनामा 12वटा पर्व, विवाह पञ्चमी, सार्वजनिक विवाह हुनुका साथै जानकी मन्दिरको हातभित्र दैनिक जसो अखण्ड रामायण पाठ, अखण्ड कीर्तन लगायतका कार्यक्रम हुने यस मन्दिरको व्यवस्थापन समेत दान दातव्यबाट सञ्चालन भइरहेको छ।
यो जानकी मन्दिर चाहिँ छुटगुठी अन्तर्गत पर्छ। अनि गुठी स्थान र हाम्रो जुन लाल मोहर छ नि त्यसमा लेखेको छ यसको जुन सम्पत्ति छ, यसको जुन साधन स्रोत छ, यसैबाट चाहिँ यसलाई सञ्चालन गर्ने भएन भन्ने महन्जी स्वयं यसको व्यवस्था गर्ने।
ऐतिहासिक रूपले महत्वपूर्ण सांस्कृतिक धरोहर मानिने जानकी मन्दिर धार्मिक हिसाबले नेपाल र भारत दुवै देशका हिन्दू धर्मावलम्बीहरूको सेतु पनि हो। मध्य प्रदेश सरकारले हिन्दू धर्मावलम्बीहरूको पवित्र र प्रख्यात तीर्थस्थल जानकी मन्दिरलाई विश्व सम्पदा सूचीमा सूचीकृत गर्नका लागि आफ्नो 2081-82 को नीति तथा कार्यक्रममा समावेश समेत गरिसकेको छ। धार्मिक पर्यटनमा अथाह सम्भावना बोकेको जानकी मन्दिर लगायतका ऐतिहासिक धरोहरहरूले हाम्रो संस्कृति र परिचय झल्काउँदछ।
Nepal has numerous places and monuments of historical, archaeological, religious, cultural, and natural significance. Among them, one is Bodhanath Stupa that lies in the northeast of Kathmandu. This world-famous stupa is the property of ancient arts and culture. It is also the property of Buddhist civilization. This region, spread in about 7,630 square meter area, is about 7 kilometers far from Kathmandu Darbar Square. It is about 100 feet in radius and has a height of about 141.8 feet. Its date of construction is not yet exactly ascertained. However, some theories based on some myths, chronology, and some written scriptures of Guru Padmasambhava are popular. The stupa, which is the largest stupa in the world, is believed to be constructed with the remains of Kashyapa Buddha in it. This stupa, also considered as the symbol of Trikal Buddha's heart, harbors thousands of devotees and visitors every day. Furthermore, with the enlistment of the stupa in the UNESCO's World Heritage List, its fame has skyrocketed. Despite the fact that majority of residents around the stupa are from Tamang community, there are also people from other communities like Newar, Sherpa, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Tibetans, and so on. This very feature symbolizes unity and diversity. The history of Bodhanath Stupa. The history of its construction is still mysterious. However, different myths, chronicles regarding its establishment are popular. As per the scripture of Guru Padmasambhava, Bodhanath is called Jarung Khashor in Tibetan language. According to a myth, an angel named Purnima Gangchungma was born in earth as a punishment for stealing flour in heaven. She was born in a place in Nepal as Jajima, a daughter of poultry farmer. Later, when she grew up, she got married to a horse trader. After the birth of a son, the horse trader died. She then got married to a pig trader. After the birth of a son, the pig trader too died. Then after, she married a dog trader. He too died after the birth of a son. Finally, she got married to a poultry farmer. He too died after the birth of a son. The mother of 4 sons then got involved in poultry farm and amassed a bigger fortune. After her sons got married, she still had a bigger chunk of wealth and she decided to devote herself in religious rites. Then a thought of establishing a stupa was emerged in her mind. She then pleaded the king to allot some land to make this stupa. The king responded to her demand positively. However, a widow willing to perform a larger kind of pious work was intolerable to the wealthy people of that community. They then went to the king pleading him to stop the project. Since the king had already promised her, he denied going as per their request. Due to this reason, the word Kashor was added to the name, which means slipped promise. And finally, it became Jarung Kashor. In Tibetan language, Ja means a year of the bird. The construction was said to be initiated and ended in the same year of bird after 12 years. So it is believed to be called Jarung Kashor. Jajima died 4 years after the start of the project. Then her 4 sons continued the project. Due to their pious work, those 4 sons are reincarnated as Holy King Trisong Duchen, great Buddhist preacher Shanta Rakshit, Guru Padmasambhava, and religious minister Bami Thiser in Tibet, and had worked for the establishment of Buddhism according to a myth. According to a belief, Bodhanath Stupa was constructed in around 5th century. It is said that the stupa was discovered in the era of Lichavi king Shivadev. Some Buddhists believe that, like Swayambhunath, Bodhanath was also self-created. According to a chronicle written by Daniel Wright, the stupa was constructed by King Manadeva I, which was started in 464 AD and completed in 505 AD. It was later destroyed by Mughal king and later reconstructed. It is coated with thousands of grams of gold. Water is filled in the stupa's pond in every 12 years, and in every 12 years there is a carnival to observe the Bodhanath pond. During the carnival, thousands of Buddhist devotees, either local or foreign, visit the spot to see the pond and take the water out from the pond. It is believed that whosoever sees the pond and drink water from it will have his or her illness remedied, and healthy people will gain immunity to fight against the diseases. A Chinese lama is appointed by the Guti Sansthan that belongs to the government of Nepal, whereas the Ministry of Culture and Tourism has established Bodhanath Area Development Committee that looks after Bodhanath and performs all the necessary renovations of the stupa. This stupa is based on the practice of Mahayana Buddhism. It is also taken as the symbol of Chintamani. As per the Buddhist model of construction, bricks, mud, stones, wood, copper and gold were used to construct the stupa. It has 5 layers of construction, which are considered as the 5 elements of nature that are needed for the creation. The upper portion of the stupa from the ground level is considered as the earth. The core above it is considered water. 13 Bhuvan symbolizes fire, Chatravali symbolizes air, and the topmost dome indicates the sky. There's a ring road that encircles the stupa. Buddhists encircle the shrine chanting Om Mani Padme Hum. It is believed that chanting the mantra will free oneself from all miseries and will finally achieve salvations from the heaven, hell, earth, and other places. There are 6 such places in total according to Buddhism. Different statues of Bodhisattva are placed in different parts of the stupa. Mantras are written in each statue. There are 108 different parts in the stupa, and a statue of different gods and goddesses rests in each part. There are 108 total statues placed on those parts. Its dome is considered as the symbol of the universe. The 2 eyes in each direction is called Harmika. Harmika indicates the 4 noble truths and 8 rightfold paths. These peaceful and thoughtful eyes also symbolize knowledge and measures to rid from evil. It is believed that the gaze of the eyes will rid oneself from sex, anger, greed, attachment, jealousy, gluttony, and pain, and will take the mind to bliss, non-violence, and positivity. The question mark-like symbol below the eyes symbolizes nirvana, and the dot symbolizes wisdom. There are 13 more stories above the Harmika. These 13 stories indicate the 13 places after life that Bodhisattva crosses. After the 13th story lies a gold-plated copper lotus. The flower symbolizes softness, purity, kindness. Then after lies Chatravali's, which is considered as a protector of the stupa. The top part of the stupa is considered as the symbol of Sumeru mountain, which indicates greatness. It is believed that after reaching the peak, one is supposed to attain nirvana, shunyata. Buddhist devotees pray to the shrine, seeking welfare not just for themselves but for the entire living creatures. Nepal signed the World Heritage Conservation Treaty to renovate of different cultural and religious heritages with the aid of UNESCO in 1978. By 1979, 7 places inside the Kathmandu Valley were listed in the World Heritage List. One of those 7 heritages is Bodhanath. Different festivals and jatras are celebrated in Bodhanath every year. Among them, one is Mamla Jatra. It is also called Azim Jatra. There is no authentic documentation regarding the origin of this jatra, yet oral tradition says it had begun in the 8th century after Guru Rinpoche Azim was established as the protector of this area.
यो जात्रा चाहिँ विशेष गरेर ममको स्मरणमा ममको सम्झनामा मनाउने गरिन्छ।
Likewise, a day before Chaitra Purnima, Temal Jatra is observed. This Jatra is celebrated especially by Tamang community. During this Jatra, Tamangs from Kathmandu and neighboring districts visit the place and ignite lights in the loving memory of their deceased relatives. There's a tradition of giving alms and donations after the completion of puja. They also sing Tamang Selo and dance with the song. Vaisakh Purnima celebrates Buddha Jayanti. This is the day on which Lord Buddha was born, got enlightenment, and received Mahaparinirvana. There is a special puja on this day for the same reason. In the like manner, people perform plantation of paddy as the festival during the month of July-August. This jatra is a part and parcel of Buddhist identity. People light lights in the memory of their deceased relatives on this jatra as well. On Mangsir and Paush, October, November and December, January, people celebrate the Dasami Cheju Puja related to Guru Rinpoche. Losar, which is New Year, is also celebrated in a grand way. Special carnival is observed here during Sonam Losar. Similarly, after death of a Buddhist in the area, the deceased body is taken around the mortal remains is taken around the shrine and then cremated. It is believed that taking the body around the shrine will free the deceased person from all the worldly and afterlife sufferings. These festivals and celebrations are no doubt a continuation of Buddhist culture, but are equally useful in preserving the Buddhist culture as well as for the promotion of tourism. This World Heritage Site has religious, historical and cultural significance. It is our responsibility to promote this holy place as a beautiful tourist destination for the visitors from all over the world and work for the preservation of it as well.
PR deadline hits today. Parties submit lawmakers' names to Election Commission. Nepal government recommends Home Minister Om Prakash Aryal for National Assembly seat. NRNA seeks unanimous leadership while political divisions and low-profile event raise questions. Israel launches wide-scale strikes on western Iran as Tehran responds with retaliatory missile attacks. Pakistani airstrikes across Afghanistan kill 6, target Taliban hideouts. And Daniil Medvedev ends Carlos Alcaraz's 16-match winning streak to reach Indian Wells final. Good evening, I'm Vijata Bhandari and you're watching NTV World News Hour, coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in detail. Political parties that crossed the 3% threshold in the March 5 House of Representatives election have submitted their proportional representation candidates to the Election Commission. Rashtriya Swatantra Party (RSP) recommended 57 MPs across Khas Arya, Janjati, Muslim, Dalit, Madhesi and Tharu clusters, while the Nepali Congress finalized 20 names, including 15 women, and the CPN-UML submitted 16 candidates. Nepali Communist Party, Shram Sanskriti Party and Rashtriya Prajatantra Party have also submitted their PR list, though the NCP's Muslim seat remains unfilled, prompting protests from candidate Taj Muhammad Mian. Election Commission has begun verifying all submissions and will report to the President once the process is complete, with parties asked to correct any mismatched cluster representations. A total of 110 MPs will be elected under the PR system from the 18.35 million valid votes cast. We will see more on this in our Issue of the Day segment later in the bulletin. Nepal government has recommended Home Minister Om Prakash Aryal for a vacant seat in the National Assembly. The decision was made during a cabinet meeting held at the Prime Minister's residence in Balwatar on Sunday. Aryal, who hails from Gulmi, has been recommended as an expert member of the upper house of the federal parliament. According to Nepal's constitution, the President can nominate 3 members to the 59-member National Assembly based on the recommendation of the Council of Ministers. Members of the National Assembly serve a 6-year term, while elections for 1/3 of the chamber were held on January 25.
नेपालका हिमनदी बेसिन क्षेत्रमा हिमताल विस्फोटन जन्य बाढी तथा जलवायु परिवर्तन जन्य बाढीबाट उत्पन्न जोखिम न्यूनीकरण मार्फत जीविकोपार्जन तथा सम्पत्तिको संरक्षण परियोजनाको लागि हरित जलवायु कोषबाट संयुक्त राष्ट्र संघीय विकास कार्यक्रम मार्फत प्राप्त हुने 2,42,67,427 अमेरिकी डलर बराबरको अनुदान सहायता स्वीकार गर्ने, युद्ध प्रभावित पश्चिमी एसियाली मुलुकहरूमा रहेका एवं ट्रान्जिटमा अल्पत्र परेका नेपाली नागरिकहरूको तत्काल राहत तथा उद्धार कार्यलाई प्रभावकारी बनाउन हाललाई नेपाली राजदूतावासहरू रियाद, अबुधाबी, दोहा, कुवेत सिटी, मनमा, मस्कट, इस्लामाबाद, काइरो र तेल अभिव तथा नेपाली महावाणिज्य दूतावासहरू जेद्दा र दुबईले आवश्यक व्यवस्था मिलाउने श्री ओम प्रकाश अरियाल गुल्मीलाई राष्ट्रिय सभाको रिक्त सदस्यमा मनोनित गर्न सम्माननीय राष्ट्रपतिज्यू समक्ष सिफारिस गर्ने।
The Non-Resident Nepali Association is holding its 12th World Conference and International General Convention in Kathmandu, where a new leadership of the International Coordination Council will be elected for the next 2-year term. The gathering comes amid growing concerns over divisions and politicization within the diaspora body. Candidates including Robin Prasad Sherchan and Dr. Hemraj Sharma are in the race for the presidency, while efforts are underway to forge a consensus for a unanimous leadership. Stakeholders say the new leadership will be crucial in restoring unity and mobilizing diaspora resources for Nepal's development. We will dive deeper into this on our cover story of the day later in the bulletin. Meanwhile, Israel has launched wide-scale strikes on targets in western Iran, targeting military infrastructure and strategic sites, according to the Israeli military. Iran responded with a new wave of missile attacks, escalating tensions across the Middle East. The latest confrontation follows earlier U.S.-Israeli operations on Iranian facilities that triggered retaliatory missile and drone strikes from Tehran. International leaders have warned that continued military action could push the region toward a prolonged conflict. Donald Trump has threatened further strikes on Karg Island, a key Iranian oil export hub, while urging allies to deploy warships to secure the Strait of Hormuz. The remarks came as the U.S.-Israeli military campaign against Iran entered its third week. Trump said U.S. strikes had severely damaged the island and warned more attacks could follow if tensions continue. The escalations has raised fears of disruptions to global energy supplies as the Strait of Hormuz handles about a fifth of the world's oil shipments. Pakistan carried out airstrikes across several locations in Afghanistan, killing at least 6 people, including a woman and a child, and injuring more than a dozen others, according to local officials. The strikes hit areas near Kandahar International Airport, as well as parts of Kabul and Nangarhar province. Pakistani security sources said the targets were hideouts of Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan militants. The United Nations mission in Afghanistan has urged an immediate halt to cross-border clashes, warning violence is increasing civilian casualties and worsening the humanitarian situation. Daniil Medvedev brought an end to world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz's perfect start to 2026 to reach the final at Indian Wells. Alcaraz began the year by winning the Australian Open and was on a 16-match winning streak until running into Medvedev. The Russian made a quick start, taking the opening set in 35 minutes en route to 6-3, 7-6 victory in California. The 30-year-old, who has finished runner-up at the California event on 2 occasions, will face Yannick Sinner after the world number 2 caught the eye with 6-2, 6-4 win over Alexander Zverev earlier in the day. Nepal is set to witness a rare political moment after the Rashtriya Swatantra Party almost secured a 2/3 majority in the March 5 elections. The new government will be formed under Constitution of Nepal 2015 Article 76(1), a provision being used for the first time since the constitution was promulgated. We'll look at the constitutional steps that will lead to the formation of the next government and more in our Issue of the Day segment after this break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour. Now on to our issue of the day. Nepal is preparing for the formation of a new government led by the Rashtriya Swatantra Party after it secured a 2/3 majority in the March 5 House of Representatives elections. For the first time since the promulgation of the Constitution of Nepal 2015, the government will be formed under Article 76(1), allowing the President to appoint the parliamentary party leader of the majority party as the Prime Minister. The process is expected to take around 10 days as constitutional procedures, including convening parliament and electing the Speaker and Deputy Speaker, are completed. Here's a report.
Nepal is set to witness the formation of a new government under the leadership of the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, which secured a 2/3 majority in the recent House of Representatives elections held on March 5. For the first time since the promulgation of the Constitution of Nepal 2015, the government will be formed procedurally under Article 76, Clause 1, which allows the President to appoint the leader of the parliamentary party with a majority as Prime Minister, with a Council of Ministers formed under their chairmanship. Previously, governments were formed through coalitions as no single party had secured a majority. This time, with the Rashtriya Swatantra Party winning the majority, the process will follow a clear constitutional path. Constitutional experts have outlined the steps that must be completed. The Election Commission must submit the official election report to the President within 7 days. The President then convenes Parliament within 30 days. Senior members take the oath from the President and administer oaths to other members. And finally, the Speaker and Deputy Speaker are elected before the Prime Minister and Cabinet can be formally sworn in. Rashtriya Swatantra Party has indicated that the entire process will take at least 10 days. Legal scholars note that under Article 76, the new government will not require a vote of confidence, and a no confidence motion cannot be moved against a single party majority government for at least 2 years, ensuring stability. This follows historical precedent. After the restoration of democracy in Nepal, the Nepali Congress formed single majority governments in 1991 and 1999. With these steps underway, Nepal anticipates a stable and constitutionally grounded government, marking a significant moment in the country's democratic history.
Nepal's newly elected parliament is set to convene soon, no later than 30 days right after the Election Commission submitted the final results of the March 5 HOR election to the President on March 10. Once summoned, lawmakers will take the oath of office and elect a Speaker and Deputy Speaker within 15 days to oversee parliamentary proceedings. With the Rashtriya Swatantra Party having a single-party majority, the President will appoint as parliamentary leader as Prime Minister, who must then secure a vote of confidence in the House within 30 days to formally establish the new government. The first session of the House of Representatives will mark both the start of the new legislative term and the beginning of the government formation, likely before the Nepali New Year of 2083. Smitu Ghising Tamang explores more.
Nepal's newly elected parliament is expected to convene latest by the 30th day of the final results of the March 5 House of Representatives election. The final result announcement day will be counted from the time the Election Commission submits its report to the President. According to the Federal Parliament Secretariat of Nepal, as per constitutional provision, the President must summon the first meeting of the new House of Representatives within 30 days after he receives the report.
पहिला त निर्वाचनको अन्तिम मत परिणाम सार्वजनिक भएको मितिले 30 दिनभित्र सभाको बैठक बस्नुपर्छ भन्ने संवैधानिक व्यवस्था छ। अन्तिम मत सार्वजनिक भए पछाडिको 30 दिनभित्र बस्ने गरेर नै सबै कुराको व्यवस्थापन हुन्छ।
Nepal follows a parliamentary system where the government is formed based on majority support in the lower house of bicameral parliament. The process begins once the President of Nepal formally summons the first session of the House of Representatives of Nepal. During that first meeting, newly elected lawmakers are sworn into office. The House then begins its internal processes, including the election of a Speaker and Deputy Speaker within 15 days, who will preside over parliamentary proceedings. At the same time, as per Article 76(1) of the Constitution, President appoints the parliamentary party leader of the party with majority to the post of Prime Minister and Council of Ministers under his or her chairpersonship, with the likely equation of the House of Representatives tilting towards single-party majority. There would be no need for any coalition this time around. As per constitutional provision, the newly appointed Prime Minister must then seek a vote of confidence in the lower house within 30 days, formally establishing the new government. The upcoming parliamentary session will therefore mark the beginning of both the new legislative term and the process of forming Nepal's next government. As the process demands around 30 days for the appointment of new Prime Minister in Nepal, all eyes are when will the President receive the report and summon the first meeting. The 30-day deadline is the maximum. Nepali people most likely are set to see the new Prime Minister before the Nepali New Year 2083. Smitu Kising Tamang reporting for NTV World.
Following the House of Representatives election held on March 5, 6 political parties have qualified as national parties in Nepal. The recognition of national party status has now become a major topic of discussion. Aprila Khising Lama looks into what legal and practical differences it makes for a party to be recognized or not recognized as a national party in Nepal's political system.
Under Nepal's mixed electoral system, a political party is recognized as a national party only if it meets two conditions. It must win at least one seat in the direct first-past-the-post election and secure at least 3% of the total votes under the proportional representation system. This means a party can win several direct seats but still fail to gain national status if it does not cross the 3% proportional vote threshold. Likewise, a party that receives more than 3% of proportional votes but fails to win at least one direct seat cannot be recognized as a national party. In the 2022 general election, CPN Unified Socialist won 10 direct seats but failed to cross the 3% proportional threshold and therefore did not qualify as a national party. In contrast, in the latest election, the Rashtriya Prajatantra Party crossed the 3% proportional vote threshold despite winning only one direct seat, allowing it to obtain national party status. National party recognition does not affect the salaries or benefits of members of parliament. However, parliamentary rules require a party to have at least 10 lawmakers in the House of Representatives to appoint an official chief whip and whip. Although some parties may gain national recognition, those with fewer than 10 MPs cannot formally appoint these positions, and such appointments are not officially recognized by the Federal Parliament Secretariat. Representatives of nationally recognized parties are generally invited to key parliamentary consultations, including meetings of the Parliamentary Business Advisory Committee and most all-party meetings called by the President or the Prime Minister. According to parliamentary rules, political parties with 2 or more elected MPs are eligible for a parliamentary party office. Parties with only one seat, as well as independent lawmakers, are not entitled to these facilities.
That brings us to the end of our issue of the day. On to the next segment now. Once envisioned as a powerful bridge between Nepal and its global diaspora, the non-resident Nepali movement now faces questions about unity and direction. As the 12th World Conference and International General Convention gears up to elect a new leadership, concerns over internal divisions and a subdued convention have come into focus. We explore this and more in our cover story segment after the short break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour. Now on to our cover story segment. The Non-Resident Nepalis Association, that was seen as a possible robust link between Nepali diaspora and the motherland, has seen slow but gradual disintegration under political guise. The ongoing 12th World Conference and International General Convention is electing a new leadership of the movement for a 2-year term. Two major issues have attracted the attention this time: the possibility of unanimous leadership election and a low-profile organization of the event. Sabika Shrestha brings the details of the day.
As the Non-Resident Nepali Association NRNA holds its 12th World Conference and International General Convention in Kathmandu, attention has turned to how the new leadership can shy away from subtle politicization of the movement. The convention is set to elect a new leadership of the International Coordination Council (ICC) for the next 2-year term. The leadership race has drawn interest among non-resident Nepalis worldwide, with candidates including Robin Prasad Serchan and Dr. Hemraj Sharma competing for the presidency. Internal sources, however, have said that an agreement has been forced so as to elect new leadership unanimously.
About 80 lakhs Nepalis living abroad. We have only 1 lakh members, which is about 2% of the total population. That means vast majority of NRNs are not involved in this organization. I think we overpromise to the nation we can do better, and the government has high expectation. I think that has to be very clear for the moment. What we can do, we have so many people living around the world, to bring all people, so they can, even the small investment can bring large amount of money. I think we should bring that approach instead of finding rich people, to connect all of the people around the world, and the small investment make it a large amount of money. That's the approach.
Sharma emphasized that NRA should work to introduce second-generation Nepalis to their roots and culture while serving as a bridge between the diaspora and Nepal. The organization, since its inception in 2003, has served as a link between Nepal and millions of Nepalis living abroad. Stakeholders say the incoming leadership will play a crucial role in mobilizing diaspora resources, encouraging investment, and promoting knowledge transfer that can assist Nepal's economic and social development. NRNA activists, however, say that political groupism and differing mindsets sometimes affect the organization, but noted that politics can be practiced constructively if guided by the right intent.
Somehow, directly, indirectly, there are political influence and lots of pressure, as you can see, current situation as well. But what I would say is, I know we all have, as individuals, we all have our own let's say belief and our family background, or somehow we are directly, indirectly, we have that mindset of political parties. As a person, as an individual, I would say there's politics everywhere, at home, in the community, nation, even in NRNA. And it is needed, politics is needed as well, but in a right way, not bringing the political influence in the association.
NRN citizenship might have been a win for the movement after marathon engagement with multiple governments since the promulgation of the new constitution, but various issues including the 7-year criteria and procedural hurdles have made it difficult to obtain. One of the major agendas of voting rights for NRNs remain in very political parties' manifesto, but so far has been unmaterialized. Experts note that a strong and unified leadership could help channel the expertise and capital of non-resident Nepalis into sectors such as tourism, entrepreneurship, technology, and infrastructure, areas seen as vital for the country's growth. Unanimous election of new leadership shows prospect of making the politically disintegrated movement again unified, as other agendas remain overshadowed as long as the power groups within the movement act under political guise. Sabika Shrestha with camera person Rasila Shrestha reporting for NTV World.
In this context, we asked the participants of the 12th World Conference and International General Convention of NRNA, should NRNA rise above party politics? Let's have a look at what they had to say.
From last couple of years, we have been seeing this type of unproductive teamwork, and NRNA was also divided. And what I can see is everyone has a political thing. We should not take it negatively, but people should not influence the political leaders to get a position here. this is the bad trend in NRNA, as a result of which political leaders also became blind and started supporting their political cadres, as a result of which NRNA could not give the delivery as expected.
I don't think so. The politics, direct affected to the non-resident Nepali association. We meet the political leader, we go there and having the agenda and issues. So yeah, sometimes, before many years ago, they affected and then we divided. But now, and we came to united our organizations very well.
अब चाहिँ विदेश र नेपालमा रहेका हाम्रा नेपाली दाजुभाइहरू अबको यो च्यालेन्जेस पोइन्ट हो हामीले चाहिँ हाम्रो अस्तित्व स्वीकार गर्नको लागि हाम्रो नेपालीपन र नेपालीत्व र नेपाललाई स्वीकार गर्नको लागि एउटा बचाउनको लागि पनि अब चाहिँ कुनै पनि एउटा राजनीतिक दल नबनिकन संस्थालाई अगाडि बढाएर र नेपाल राष्ट्रलाई अगाडि बढाएर अगाडि बढ्नुपर्छ.
NRNA moves with a very particular passion to connect global Nepalese together. So I don't feel that that is specifically the case. I think the mission of NRNA has been very clear from the very beginning, and I also believe that the new leadership is going to take that forward. So I see it as a win-win. I see it as a big positive.
यो समय पक्कै नेपालको राजनीतिक परिवर्तन सँगसँगै भएको युथहरूको आन्दोलनले गर्दा एनआरएनमा पनि एउटा चेन्ज ल्याएको छ मुभमेन्टमा. त्यसले गर्दा हरेक एनआरएनका डेलिगेट्सहरूमा एउटा नयाँपन र अब हामी यो नेपालको राजनीतिसँग इन्टरफेयर जोडेर होइन हामी आफै नै उभिनुपर्छ यो संस्थालाई बचाउन भनेर पक्कै हरेक डेलिगेट्सहरूको मनमा लागेको छ. त्यसकारण पनि अहिलेको एनआरएन नेतृत्वहरूलाई हामी मिलेर जानुपर्छ भन्ने बाध्यकारी अवस्था छ.
We have graphic change on our country also, and from last few years we are facing many problems. Just this convention make us unity, and we are hope for good leader.
NRN is representing 19 lakhs people, so it should be the voice of NRNA, and then they should work for the country, but not politically issues. But obviously, they have to look after, they have to support.
From grassroots vision in 2003 to a global network of over 100,000 members, the Non-Resident Nepalese Association has transformed into a critical economic and social bridge for Nepal. Let's have a look at the movement's journey, its landmark policy victories, and its evolving role in shaping the nation's financial future. Subeksha Rajak looks into this.
Once a Nepali, always a Nepali. It began as a vision in London in 2003. 2 decades later, it is a global alliance. From grassroots gathering to a network spanning across 90 countries, the Non-Resident Nepali Association NRNA has evolved into the most critical bridge between the diaspora and the motherland. The journey hasn't been smooth though. For years, internal divisions threatened to stall progress. But the movement's core mission to unify and protect remained in the compass. The results? Landmark policy victories, NRN citizenship, a legal identity for Nepalis abroad anchoring them to their roots, voting rights, a possible historic win for civic inclusion as the issue remains at the table. Investment and remittance. The organization has actively facilitated remittances and foreign investment, bridging digital and geographical gaps. After years of fragmentation, the recent historic unity agreement has solidified a single legitimate and democratic structure. The NRNA is now poised to do what it was built for, serving as the ultimate advocate for the global Nepali community. NRNA, basically the organization of more established and long-term foreign residing Nepalis, has started bringing facilities investment in the country. With the launch of the 10 billion rupee Nepal Investment Fund, the diaspora is transitioning from senders of remittance to architects of industry, driving projects in hydropower, health, and education. As Nepal faces global economic headwinds, NRNA is no longer just an
Association. It is a strategic pillar for national prosperity. With the 12th NRN Global Conference and NRNA International General Assembly all set to select new leadership, the goal of bringing prosperity to the motherland through investment might get a stronger boost. In addition, the possibility of a stable government and political landscape in the country for the next 5 years will be encouraging for those willing to invest in Nepal.
And that concludes our cover story segment. Now to other updates. Forests in Baglung, Nepal, covering over 92,000 hectares, continue to face severe threats from natural disasters, including landslides, wind and seasonal fires. Despite existing protections, poor management and infrastructure development have led to the loss of large trees and degradation of forest into shrubland. Local authorities and residents are calling for stricter enforcement of forest protection laws, fire prevention measures, and community awareness programs to reduce damage during the high-risk Chaitra season. Last year, forest fires alone destroyed 144 hectares and caused significant wildlife loss, highlighting the urgent need for coordinated action. Officials stress that safeguarding Baglung's forest requires collective responsibility from local, provincial and federal governments, as well as community participation. The forge or furnace of a blacksmith is a rare sight these days, even in rural areas. Once the manufacturers of iron tolls in a predominantly agricultural country, Nepal, the traditional professional is at serious risk. Lack of youth's attraction towards the artist's work and availability of cheaper ready-made alternatives are the reasons behind the decline. But the Bishwakarma community in Rajpal village of Syangja is redefining the profession. Rosina Rai with our local correspondent Himal Nyopani brings the report.
How much would be annual income of a blacksmith in rural village of Nepal? The Bishwakarmas in Rajpal village of Syangja are earning over 300,000 rupees in an average by reviving the blacksmith's traditional forge profession. The community in the village has not only rejected modern machine-made tools but also encouraged locals to value the handmade products from the age-old method. The hamlet of around 35 blacksmiths in the village has a campaign, one house, one furnace. The village craftsmen shape metal into essential agricultural and household tools, providing not only a source of income but also products that are increasingly popular among local communities. These skilled blacksmiths produce tools such as sickles, hoes, spades and axes, which are gaining recognition in neighboring districts like Parbat, Kaski and Palba. As a result, Rajpal village is gradually being recognized as a model for blacksmith businesses in Nepal. Locals believe with the dedication and hard work, people can make decent earning within the country without having to live abroad.
विदेशमा जतिकै यहाँ खटेर गर्ने हो भने यही हुन्छ नेपालमै अहिले बस्ने सोच छ किन यही बसे त भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो यही पेशाबाट बसौं.
The market value of these tools varies depending on type and its quality. Sickles can cost between 500 and 5,000 Nepali rupees, spades from 700 to 2,500 and axes from 800 to 3,500 Nepali rupee. Rajpal village stands as a strong example of economic prosperity through traditional occupation, giving youths alternative of flying abroad.
नेपाल सरकार स्थानीय सरकारले हामीलाई चाहिँ अलिकति सहज गरिदियोस् कच्चा पदार्थदेखि लिएर हाम्रो व्यापार बजारको व्यवस्था गरिदियोस्.
With the proper support from local governments and authorities concerned, traditional skills and cottage industries like these can continue to create employment opportunities and sustainable growth in rural communities. Rosina Rai with the local correspondent Himal Nyopani from Syangja, Reporting for NTV World.
The traditional Chauri and Salayo folk songs of Nepal's Magar community are gradually fading from villages in the hilly districts of Lumbini province, particularly in Palpa. Once widely performed during festivals, gatherings and celebrations, the songs and accompanying dances have become increasingly rare in recent years. Locals say migration, youth outflow and the declining number of elders in villages have disrupted the transmission of these traditions. Today, Chauri Salayo performances are mostly limited to special worship ceremonies and community events in Magar-populated areas such as Nisi, Rampur and Raina Devi Chhara. Community leaders are urging local governments to launch preservation programs involving elders to help safeguard the endangered folk heritage. It is now time for international updates, but before that, let's have a quick recap of our headlines. PR deadline hits today. Parties submit lawmakers' names to the Election Commission. Nepal government recommends Home Minister Om Prakash Aryal for National Assembly seat. NRNA seeks unanimous leadership while political divisions and low-profile event raise questions. Israel launches wide-scale strikes on western Iran as Tehran responds with retaliatory missile attacks. Pakistani airstrikes across Afghanistan kill 6, target Taliban hideouts. And Daniil Medvedev ends Carlos Alcaraz's 16-match winning streak to reach Indian Wells final. Sri Lanka has reintroduced the National Fuel Pass, making QR codes mandatory for all fuel purchases as the government moves to manage limited reserves, deter hoarding, and maintain uninterrupted supply for everyday needs and economic activity. Officials said the decision follows disruptions to global petroleum supply chains linked to the ongoing military situation in the Middle East and an abnormal spike in domestic demand, which together have accelerated the depletion of available stocks. Authorities also flagged illegal bulk buying and black market rackets as aggravating factors. The government urged motorists to comply with the new requirements, stressing that the fuel pass is critical to shortening queues, preventing misuse, and ensuring uninterrupted fuel access for the general public as long as the supply pressures persist. Pakistani warplanes struck several locations across Afghanistan on Thursday night and Friday, killing at least 6 people, including a woman and a child, and wounding more than a dozen others, according to local officials. The strikes hit a fuel depot near the country's Kandahar airport, areas in the capital Kabul, and the eastern Nangarhar province. A Pakistani security source said the strikes targeted hideouts belonging to the Pakistani Taliban, also known as Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. In the past weeks, scores of people from both sides have been killed or injured in the conflict between Afghanistan and neighboring Pakistan, according to officials from the two countries. The United Nations mission in Afghanistan has called for an immediate halt to cross-border clashes, warning that the escalating violence is driving a surge in civilian casualties and deepening a humanitarian crisis. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has overseen a test launch of nuclear-capable rocket launches, according to images released by state media, in a move that has raised fresh security concerns on the Korean peninsula. Footage filmed on March 14 and released by North Korean state media KCTV on March 15 showed Kim and his daughter Kim Joo-ae observing the weapons test conducted a day earlier. Pyongyang said the test involved nuclear-capable multiple rocket launch systems designed to strengthen the country's strategic strike capabilities. The weapons are believed to be capable of carrying tactical nuclear warheads. Tensions have remained high between North Korea and South Korea amid a series of missile tests and joint military exercises involving United States forces in the region. Military officials in Seoul said they are closely monitoring further activity and maintaining a heightened state of readiness following the latest launch. 10 fishermen were rescued by the Yangzhou-guided missile frigate of the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy after their fishing boat collided with a merchant ship in the East China Sea, an accident that left the boat tilting dangerously on the verge of sinking. The fishing boat, registered in East China's Zhejiang province, lost both power and electricity in the collision, which ruptured its hull and caused severe flooding. Sea conditions that night were brutal. With seawater relentlessly pouring into the stricken boat, the situation grew increasingly critical. Crew members of Yangzhou quickly launched a small vessel and battled the swell to reach the fishermen. After a half-hour emergency operation, all 10 fishermen were pulled to safety in 2 trips. Once aboard the Yangzhou, the fishermen were given medical attention, dry clothes, hot food, and a place to rest. Heavy snowfall has blanketed parts of Ifrane and other mountainous areas of Atlas Mountains, creating hazardous road conditions and disrupting daily life across the region. Authorities in Morocco have issued warnings urging drivers to exercise caution and use winter tires and chains where necessary, as snow continues to accumulate on key mountain routes. Emergency and road maintenance teams have been deployed to clear major roads and assist stranded motorists. The snowfall is linked to a cold front moving across the Atlas Mountains, bringing a sharp drop in temperatures that forecasters say could intensify over the weekend. Local authorities confirmed that several schools and public offices in affected mountainous districts have temporarily closed as a precaution, while municipal services continue efforts to keep primary roads open and maintain access to remote communities. Let's take a short breather here. We shall be back with business updates.
Jet fuel prices are rising as the war in the Middle East disrupts global oil supplies, putting cost pressure on airlines as the busy summer travel season approaches. The war is constraining oil exports and promoting major producers like Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq to scale back outputs as shipments face growing obstacles. It is said the impact may be felt most on long-haul international routes, which burn significantly more fuel than shorter flights. Some global airliners have announced fare increases or fuel surcharges in an effort to offset the growing expense. Iran has attacked commercial ships across Persian Gulf and targeted oil infrastructure in Gulf Arab nations following US and Israeli strikes. The attacks have effectively halted traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow passage that carries about 1/5 of the world's oil supply. Bangladesh government has decided to lift all restrictions, including rationing, imposed on the sale of fuel oil. The government took several decisions to address a possible crisis in the context of the crisis created in fuel supply lines due to the ongoing war in the Middle East. However, some imported oil ships have already reached the Chattogram port. Until further orders, fuel oil distribution will now continue at all distribution points as per demand. The rationing system was introduced on the sale of fuel oil on March 6. The first Japan-US ministerial meeting to discuss stable procurement of rare earths and other critical minerals has been held in Tokyo. Japanese government says that the two sides agreed to work closely to diversify supply chains with China's export control in mind. China dominates the supply chain of rare earths and uses export control on the elements as diplomatic leverage. In the US, the Trump administration is accelerating efforts to secure a supply. In the state of Wyoming, development is underway at the first domestic rare earth mine in about 70 years. Markets in the Pakistan city of Rawalpindi are packed with shoppers as customers rush to buy clothes, shoes and gifts ahead of the upcoming Eid al-Fitr festival, marking the end of the fasting month of Ramadan. Large crowds flocked to one of the city's busiest commercial areas over the weekend, with families browsing stalls and shops late into the evening to prepare for the holiday celebrations. Vendors displayed colorful garments, traditional outfits and accessories, hoping to benefit from the seasonal surge in demand. Many shoppers said the market offered affordable options and room to negotiate prices. Retailers said business typically peaks in the final days of Ramadan as people complete their Eid preparations.
Now the sports update. Jaulakhel Youth Club defeated Kakre Bihar Club 4-1 in a match of the ongoing Anfa National League held at the Anfa Complex Satobato in Kathmandu. Jaulakhel secured a comfortable victory with a dominant performance throughout the game. In another match, APF Club and Chitlang FC playing to a goalless draw. Meanwhile, Machindra Football Club remains at the top of the league table with 25 points from 10 matches, with APF in second place. Teenager Kimi Antonelli took his first Formula One victory as he led teammate George Russell home in a Mercedes 1-2 at the Chinese Grand Prix. The 19-year-old Italian became the second youngest Grand Prix winner in history, a day after becoming the youngest pole sitter, with a controlled drive after briefly losing the lead at the start to Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. Only Max Verstappen, who won for the first time aged 18 at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix, has taken the checkered flag in F1 at a younger age than Antonelli. Antonelli fought back tears and struggled for words during his post-race interview as the enormity of the moment sunk in. Russell's second place ensures he keeps the championship lead by 4 points from Antonelli after a race compromised by losing positions following an early safety car. Behind them, Hamilton and Ferrari teammate Charles Leclerc staged a gripping duel for the first two-thirds of the race. And now it's time for the weather updates, first from Nepal and then across the world. We're almost at the end of our news bulletin, but before we wrap up, let's have a reminder of our top stories once again. PR deadline hits today. Parties submit lawmakers' names to Election Commission. Nepal government recommends Home Minister Om Prakash Aryal for National Assembly seat. NRNA seeks unanimous leadership while political divisions and low-profile event raise questions. Israel launches wide-scale strikes on western Iran as Tehran responds with retaliatory missile attacks. Pakistani airstrikes across Afghanistan kill 6, target Taliban hideouts. And Daniil Medvedev ends Carlos Alcaraz's 16-match winning streak to reach Indian Wells final. That is all for the moment here at NTV World News Hour. Do join us for our social media and get the latest updates from our official website at nepaltelevision.com. I am Bishata Pandari. Thank you for watching. Good night.